Go.
Okay. Hi, my name is Zoe Bartholomew. I'm from North Ogden, Utah. I started having interest in herbs probably about 11, 12 years ago with the support of my wonderful husband. We've been married 13 years. I was happily divorced for 20 before that. Didn't think I'd ever get married again, but he's been awesome. He's been very, very supportive of my endeavors, and he let me know that it was okay to make mistakes. And boy, I've made a lot along the way, and I'll be the first to admit that. I started feeling impressed to learn more about plant medicine, and I didn't really know who to go to. So I started picking up little classes here and there. I picked up a class from a woman in Mill Creek who has her own, she's a naturopath and a master herbalist, and she has her own little shop. And she was doing a class through Salt Lake Community College. And I went to her class, my very first one. And we learned how to make comfrey oil. And she told us about comfrey fertilizer. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. And the advice that she gave to all of us in the class was start with one plant, learn everything you can about that plant and how it grows, and then do another one. Well, impetuous me went home and did about 13. And within 3 years, I had 150 medicinal plants in my yard that I was growing and learning about. And I was very overwhelmed. I was working full time, plus canning and, getting prepared for events that will soon are already on us now. And so I've learned a lot through trial and error. I'm not an expert. I'm not a master herbalist. I just learned a lot on my own, and I've been shown a lot through the spirit. For example, when the whole COVID thing started, they talked about hydrochloroquine and they talked about ivermectin. So I get awoken during the night, and the spirit says, go do some research. I research everything about my plants. So I looked up the main ingredient in both of those drugs is wormwood. And I have a great big huge wormwood plant in my backyard. Yay. And I had a bunch already dried. So I went and dried it. It was already dry. So I brought it down from I have an apothecary upstairs, brought it down, put it on tincture for 2 weeks. My husband and I started taking wormwood every single day. In fact, I have some with me in a bottle over there. I normally get a bad head cold every single year that goes into my chest, and it lasts about 7 to 10 days. I normally get 2 UTIs a year. That's been normal for me for several years. Since we started taking wormwood, I have not had any sickness. I haven't had COVID that I'm aware of. If I did, maybe a mild symptom, I don't know. I have not had a UTI. I have not had a cold, nothing. And same with my husband. In fact, his blood pressure has come down to normal now. He had a mild stroke about 3 or 4 years ago, and that has come down.
Can I make a comment about this?
Yes.
What it does is it goes into the body and it literally kills the parasitical.
Yes, which makes me wonder.
Could be they call it virus.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, there's parasitical stuff in there.
I agree.
That's why it works.
Yes.
Or else it would be.
Right.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Has to be a component there.
And that is one thing that will get you in your brain. It'll get you in your organs, and it'll get you all over, and it'll cause havoc with your system.
Right.
It'll cause havoc in your bladder and in your kidneys and everything.
Yeah.
So yes, the wormwood, if you can tolerate the die-off, you have to be careful how much you give yourself.
Now, yeah, and we'll get into in the second part of the class, we'll get into more about dosages and all of that. I just want to just kind of cover some ground things first.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right about same with echinacea. Echinacea, you're only supposed to take that for about 14 days, take a break for a few days, and then you can start taking it again. The other, the newest experience that I had was about 2 months ago. I had a dream, and right as I was waking up, you know how sometimes people get married, there's like a little small Piper Cub. I don't know anything about planes. There's like a little plane, and there'll be a big banner on the back that says, "Will you marry me?" I saw one that said Coreopsis. Now, I had never heard that word before. I didn't know what it meant, but as soon as I woke up, it said, "Go look it up." So the short version of that was, it's Coreopsis tick seed. It's a pretty little yellow, sunshiny, happy flower. This plant is used to stabilize people's insulin levels that have diabetes, okay? My husband and I are into major prepping, not just for ourselves, but for people that will come to our home. We have been all over looking for a place to go into a community with other people of like mind, and that door has not opened for us. So we prayed about it, and what we realized is we are going to be a stopping place. When women come with bundles on their backs across the country and they need to get to wherever they need to go, they will come to our home. We have 2 trailers that I completely redecorated, painted walls, ceilings, you know, the old 70s, the whole 9 yards. We've got those ready. We have one that we will use as a like incubation period, or you know, keep people there just outside of the fence. They're still in the yard, but they're outside of the fence to the house. So we can quarantine them for a few days, and then we can get them fed, and we have all the medical supplies and all that.
I just got a definite witness of the spirit that is what you're gonna do.
Right,
You're gonna be a place of refuge.
Yeah, and it'll be a very temporary,
A stopping ground.
just a place for people to rest, get
Maybe
better,
medical
get healthy,
attention.
get nourishment, and then they're on their way. We send them on their way. So with that, as I was learning about plants, and I knew I needed to learn more about how to help women within my community and my neighborhood that are going to be having babies. And this is before I met Shar. So I met with 4 or 5 different midwives and herbalists all through Utah and Idaho about their experiences, what they found that worked best for them. So what I have is a compilation of the information that I've been given from them. I have never assisted in a birth where I was doling out herbal remedies. I think essential oils are great. I think they're fantastic. I also think homeopathic remedies are great, but I'm a very forward thinker. If the internet goes down, we're already having shortages. Trucks are stopping. They're not getting to where they need to go. Are you going to be able to get your homeopathic remedies? Are you going to be able to get your
Distilled oils.
yeah, your essential oils? I even looked into buying a distiller to do my own essential oils. Those are thousands of dollars. Can't afford that. So my next option was to start making my own herbal medicine, and I put together birthing kits. And I mean, like, everything you would need for a birth. So if a woman comes to my home and she's going to have a baby, I have everything I need. Fortunately, I have 2 midwives in my neighborhood that live within, one lives about 2 blocks away. Hopefully she can help. If not, then Heavenly Father's going to have to help me.
You've taken my class a few times, so.
I've taken 3 of it, and so has my husband has taken one of your classes as well.
Yeah, that's interesting because right now they're threatening pregnant mothers if you're not vaccinated, you know, have you heard that already?
That they can't go in the hospital
Yeah.
with their baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be exactly what
I
happens.
think, yes.
Home birth numbers are up since
They're going up like
COVID-19.
crazy.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And so with the help of all these lovely women, one, I brought everything that I had in my birthing kit. We'll do that later. It's under the table, and I have a list of everything that you would need to put into that birthing kit. And then I have a big 5-gallon drum or whatever with a lid on it. It has things in it, but I have a list of everything. And then even stuff for the baby and formula in case we lose the mother and there's nobody to nurse that baby. There's no wet nurse or anything. You know, we've got to come up with a plan. So I thought that way. And then Heavenly Father showed me just a couple of weeks ago, well, what if a woman can't come to you because the roads are all busted up? How am I going to get my stuff to her place? Well, my husband put together 3 large wagons. They're big, heavy duty wagons that we haul wood in. I can put those. I already checked it out. They fit in there, and they've got wheels. They got like pneumatic tires, scientific stuff. My husband knows. I don't understand all that stuff, but I could actually roll that any time of the year, winter, snow, whatever. I can take that to someone's home if I need to do that.
Praise God, what a great plan.
So going into the herbal part of it, I do have disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor. In no manner stated or implied is anything, excuse me, in this presentation meant to treat, cure, diagnose, or prevent any disease or illness. These are simply my opinions based on experience and study. Please be sure to seek medical attention from a medical doctor before using herbs or essential oils. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. And I cannot give medical advice due to FDA and restrictions. I am not allowed to make medical claims or guarantee about how the products contained herein will work. This presentation contains my opinions from a variety of sources, including herbalists and healthcare professionals, with sources cited for information purposes only. So everything that I'm sharing with you that I've gotten from anyone else, I have several handouts with references and resources so that you know that this isn't like my thing. I'm just covering my butt, just so you know.
You did it really well, but
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I am going to dedicate this. I've never done a presentation. This is the first one I've ever done. I'm dedicating this to my third great grandmother. Her name was Henrietta Levine Oakes. She was French Canadian. She was actually Native American and married a French Canadian. And she was born in Gloucester County, New Brunswick, and she died there. She lived to be almost 100 years old. So, and the reason I'm dedicating it to her is I start getting into herbal medicine and I'm doing my genealogy. I didn't even know she existed, and found out that she was an herbalist and she was a midwife for her community.
how sweet.
So she works
She's
with
here
me.
us.
Yeah, she works with me.
Yeah,
So I'm
she
very
does.
grateful for that.
Sweet.
And then I wanted to share a couple of Native American healing art quotes. Each tree, shrub, and herb, down even to the grasses and mosses, agreed to furnish a remedy for someone of the diseases named, and each of the plants said, I shall appear to help man when he calls upon me in his need. And that was Cherokee.
Nice. I feel spirits from this.
I brought some, and I'll let you guys do this a little bit later. This was in my, I think it's in this book here, American Indian Healing Arts. I have Angelica seed with a little saying for whoever would like that. And Angelica grows very, very well. I don't know about anywhere else, but it grows very well in North Ogden, Utah. It got big and beautiful, and the root has the most delightful smell. And this is specifically for women. When Angelica seed is carried in a bundle, if a woman has a hollow place, like an angelica, if you've ever seen an angelica plant, the stem is hollow. It helps for women who are suffering from feeling hollow. And it helps to bring balance to their minds, and it helps bring balance to the reproductive cycles, or in their emotions, or in their spirit. And I thought that would just be kind of nice to have. So if any of you are struggling emotionally or spiritually or whatever, please help yourself, and you can take any if you'd like. I read a very interesting quote from Brigham Young about herbal medicine, and it was in the Journal of Discourse, and I want to share it, so I thought it was very powerful. He said, you may go to some people here and ask what ails them, and they answer, I don't know, but we feel a dreadful distress in the stomach and in the back. We feel all out of order, and we wish you to lay hands upon us. And he said, have you used any remedies? No. We wish the elders to lay their hands upon us, and we have faith that we shall be healed. This is very inconsistent according to my faith. If we are sick and ask the Lord to heal us and do all for us that is necessary to be done, according to my understanding of the gospel of salvation, I might as well ask the Lord to cause my wheat and corn to grow without my plowing the ground and casting in the seed. It appears consistent to me to apply every remedy that comes within the range of my knowledge, and to ask my Father in heaven, in the name of Jesus Christ, to sanctify the application to the healing of my body. To another, this may appear inconsistent. And there's a little bit more, and I'll let you guys read that. But basically saying, use herbal medicine, and if that's not working, then you call upon the elders. He does go, however, does say if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you don't have plants, let's say you're out in the ditch and you can't find a plant, or you don't know that, then by all means, of course, you're going to call on the brethren to assist you and lay hands on you
Yeah,
for healing.
personal accountability.
Absolutely,
responsibility.
that's exactly right.
I
Char.
just like to say, I learned herbalism at a very early age from my mom and dad. But as a friend of mine taught me a principle as I was getting older, I learned more and more from different mentors. And what she taught me has really been true for me. Like if I'm somewhere and I think there's nothing to help me on the earth, all I do is I ask, Father, Mother, God, I need something for this thing that I have issue with. And all of a sudden I'm guided to go to a certain spot. And this has happened so many times, and I'll find like certain berries, or I'll find a certain plant there, like the plantain in my backyard that I didn't even know I had. And so what I realized is that the earth is alive. It's a living organism. Mother Earth is, so you're communicating with nature. You're communicating with the earth. And the God is in that too. The Holy Ghost is part of that. But she could show you where the plants are. She could even like spring plants up that never even grow in that area. Like I think we're coming into a day and age where we can't be limited to what we used to think would be. Okay?
Right.
Like we could be standing here every time we need anything. Oops, there it sprouts. There it sprouts. Directly from God, just like manna from heaven.
Yes. Yeah.
My God.
And I had seen a video of a Native American gentleman who spoke along that same lines. He said, some people think, well, I don't live in this area, so I don't know the plants, or I don't know what would work, or there's just nothing out here. There's nothing I could use. And he stood up and went like this, and he walked in a circle, and he said, now you have at least 10 either bushes, plants, roots, bark, you name it. There is medicine, at least 10 or 12, just in the area that you're standing in.
Right. Tomorrow I'm gonna take you guys for a walk on our yard, as well as going to whoever wants to. Just because I have so many good plants on my yard.
Yeah,
I'm gonna show just a few of the really good
that
ones.
would be great. That would be great. Okay, so let's see where we are here. I was kind of ambivalent about herbs in the very, very beginning when I was raising my children. So I wanted to share a couple of really neat experiences that I had. One of the first ones, my son was born. He's high functioning, mentally retarded. He lives in Spokane. I was telling these guys he's making $24 an hour, more money I ever made in my life in an hour. And he had a lot of health issues, and he had a heart murmur that would require him to have surgery by the time he was about, they had to wait till he was about between 10 and 12 years old. So I talked to a friend of mine who knew a little bit about herbs, and I said, hey, you got anything? I'm willing to give something a try. And they said he couldn't do anything real physical or anything until he had the surgery. And he was just 3 months old. We were living in Montana, and I had to bring him all the way down to primary children's hospital to a pediatric cardiologist. And she said, yeah, he's going to have to stay pretty quiet for a while. And I was breastfeeding him, and a friend said, hawthorn berry tea. Just give him hawthorn berry tea every day. And I did that. And he had to go back 3 months later I guess by that time he would have been 9 months old. And so I would just make a bottle, and I would make the hawthorn berry tea and put it in, and he would just gulp that right down. It doesn't taste bad or anything. He liked it. I was worried he would stop breastfeeding, but he didn't. I took him back 3 months later, and this is no lie. The cardiologist said, I don't know what's going on, but his heart's fine.
Wow.
Just fine.
That's amazing.
Fast forward a few more years, my oldest son was out in the backyard playing. We were living in Ohio, lived in 21 states. And he had a little bottle he got for Christmas in his stocking stuffer, British Sterling. He had it in his pocket right here, in his jean pocket. And he was riding on a little Tonka truck. He was on it, and he slid off this way, It got him right here. He comes in the house. He goes, Mom, my shoulder really hurts. I think I broke a bone. I go, no, you didn't. I rip his shirt off to look, and it's like this. Like, yep, you did. You broke your collarbone. So I took him to the hospital, and of course, sometimes you have good experience. This one wasn't so good. And the nurse said, well, I don't know that he broke a bone. We're going to just have to x-ray it. And it's like, yeah, he broke it. And sure enough, it was like that. So I talked to the same friend that had told me about Hawthorne Berry. And I said, what can we do to help heal that? Because all they can do is just put a brace. They can't put a cast on you. And he was in a lot of pain. And she said, Dr. Christopher, BF&C, it's called, at the time it was called Bone, Flesh, and Cartilage. And it had, its main ingredient is comfrey. So I started putting that on. They said he was supposed to be in a cast or in that shoulder brace for about 12 weeks. And I gave him BF&C herb in capsule form plus this. And within 4 weeks, the brace was off and it was totally healed. Brigham Young's, I had a quote from a naturopathic doctor that lives here in Idaho. He's a naturopathic doctor. That's not right. He's a veterinarian, but he's a master herbalist and he has his own training. And I have resources about Dr. Jones. He's amazing. Angie, isn't he amazing?
Yes.
Funny guy. He's just amazing.
That is funny.
Yeah, he's a really good guy. And I forgot where I was going with that. So he did a class that I went to at a prepper conference, and he mentioned a quote of Brigham Young that said there were 5 herbs that we need in the last days to get us through. And one of those was comfrey. I have not been able to find that. I had the actual quote. It was in the Journal of Discourses, I thought, or History of the Church, something. I don't know. I have not been able to find it. I have found the individual where in the Journal of Discourses where he talks about yarrow, where he talks about comfrey, where he talks about cayenne, that sort of thing. But to find
I know the other one. It's what is it? It's stuff you drink. It has epinephrine.
Ephedrine.
Ephedrine, yes.
Ephedra, yes. And
What's the name of that?
it's
What is it?
Mormon tea
Brigham
or
tea.
Brigham tea.
Yeah, Brigham tea. Yeah.
And we were able to find some and harvest our own down in, people say you can find down at Four Corners. I'm not going to travel that far. But I met a guy who was like a geologist, and he took us to where there were some. And I don't tell people where it is, and I'll tell you why. Because some people really abuse what they've learned about plants. And they'll just go in there and they just wipe everything out. And it's like, no, that's,
Then it doesn't grow back.
something.
Never take
you're right.
more than you are supposed to. And you
Exactly.
actually should ask.
Mhm.
And
That's
you should thank the plant and the earth and the Father.
And that's what I do. And in fact, I brought my herbs for the 4 directions, my juniper and all of that. And
I have a sage too that we can burn.
right. And if you go out there and you're searching for something specific, or you need something for healing, but you don't know what it is, you offer a prayer and a plant will just suddenly pop up and it'll say, pick me, pick me,
Yeah,
pick me.
you'll
I've
be
had that
guided
happen
to
more
it.
than I'm telling you, plants talk to me.
Yeah, they do.
And that's only happened in the last year or two. I didn't when I first, because I was so like focused on, getting tinctures made and all that. Now what I do, and my husband helps me with this, I grow my own and I grow a lot of my own, but we go out and we do a lot of foraging as well. When we go out there, sometimes I feel impressed that my husband's supposed to offer a prayer or I offer a prayer. And then we pick the plants that we need and we thank them for giving their lives. And they're very, very happy to do that. That's what they tell us. That's why they're here. Okay. Then when I get home and I'm drying it, I tell them, this is how I'm going to use you. If you have any other ideas, please help me. Then I'll put them on a tincture. And when I've made my tincture, I bless the tincture when I make it. I offer a prayer and I actually touch the bottle and offer a prayer. And there have been some times where the Spirit has told me, you need your husband. You both need to bless this particular tincture. So that's what we do. So that's how that works. I did want to share an interesting story. This just happened this past summer. A very dear friend who is a master herbalist in Sanpete County. An older couple came back from their mission in June. They were in Serbia. And they went out with the babushkas and they were doing nature walks and they're showing them all these plants. And some of them, there was just profuse amounts of plants. And maybe you've seen that, maybe Feline, I know you like to go out and do nature walks. Like all of a sudden 1 year, you're seeing a ton of a particular plant, more than you've ever seen before. The babushkas told this missionary couple, when that happens, those plants are telling you, you need to pick us because you need us very, very, very soon. That's the message. So when they came back to San Pete, they shared that with my friend, who's a master herbalist, and with, they had a fireside, so they shared that information with those folks. Now, interestingly, on my birthday in August, I love to go to Bear Lake. And so my husband took me up, and as we're driving up the road, up through Logan Canyon, that's the way we went. Who's from the Logan area? You are, right? I have never seen so much curly cup gumweed like I have seen this year. It was tons and tons and miles of curly cup gumweed.
What does it look like?
It's a little tiny little yellow flower. It only grows about maybe 5 to 6 inches tall, and it has a white resin when it's ready to harvest inside the cup.
Okay.
There's a white, and it's very sticky.
Okay.
Some people like the smell. I can't stand the smell of it. I just don't like it. But it's a very good expectorant. It works really good to, if you've got deep congestion way down in the lungs and you need to cough stuff up, it's really good for that. Pharmaceutical, from what I understand, pharmaceutical companies have stopped using a drug called guaifenesin. And the main ingredient in guaifenesin is curly cup gumweed. At the turn of the century, pharmaceutical companies, that there were 100% of the medicines they made came from plants. Now it's only about 40%.
The rest is synthetically produced.
And this is my concern. So now they're in a lab making some synthetic chemicals. Now they're not even using plants. What is in that stuff and what are you putting in your body?
Right.
Okay.
And what codes and signatures are in those things? And remember what we talked about on the phone, that are you going to talk about that the plants have the signature code?
Oh yeah,
their appearance.
Yeah, there's a book called Doctrine of Signatures, and it was very popular at the turn of the century. And certain plants, when you look at them, they tell you what they're for.
Yeah.
Shepherd's purse, for example. And I didn't even notice this. I was teaching a class, not a presentation, nothing like this, but just to a few individuals. We're out doing a little bit of a catwalk, and I was talking to this gal about shepherd's purse, and she looked down and she said, and she goes, well, how do you know that shepherd's purse? I said, it has little tiny little leaves that look to me like a heart shape. She goes, well, that looks like a uterus to me. I'm like, right on. I said, you're right on. And she's just starting to learn about plants. I go, I love it. I love it. I love to be around people who want to learn about plants or who already know a lot, because I can learn from them. Okay. So that was really cool. Another one is a pretty little flower. It's called eyebright, and it looks like little eyelashes and a little eye. Well, it's really good for eye issues, and you can actually take the root and powder it, and you mix it with a little bit of water. You can actually put it in your eyes, and it'll help with like certain eye diseases. So that's
conjunctivitis too.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So the other thing I was going to tell you too is, in learning about herbs, books will tell you, like I have like 28 books on herbs, and believe it or not, I use them all and I research out of them. If you're ever to get started in doing herbs, I would recommend this book, just because when I first started, this book tells you everything you need to know from start to finish. Like if it's going to grow well in your area, your zone, if when to harvest it, what parts you harvest, what you use it for. She doesn't really get into the whole medicinal part a lot, just a little bit for me.
Can you say the name of the book and the name of the author for the people watching this?
Yeah, so the name of the book is Homegrown Herbs, and the book is by Tammy Hartung, Hartung. And so this book really helped me get a little bit more confidence in working with plants, because it's like, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know. How far do I cut it? Am I going to kill it if I cut it too far? Do I use, I just didn't know. I was just learning.
Does it talk about water and shade?
Yes, it does. And you guys can look at these books after, just go ahead and look at them all that you would like. I like Dr. Christopher's book. I don't know if you know much about Dr. John Christopher. He was LDS. He was a midwife. He delivered babies. He was from Springville, Utah. He died around 1989, and he started the School of Natural Healing. I'm going to express some opinions here that some people may not like or whatever, but I'm very direct. I think the school is great. I haven't gone through a school because to become a master herbalist through their school is thousands of dollars, and that is not necessary. Dr. Jones has an herbalist school, and his school is only $800. I don't know if he's still doing the buddy system, and it's ongoing, so it just never ends. So once you pay that $800, whatever information he puts out there, you can go online and you can look it up. And he has courses of study. I'm planning on doing that myself this winter, just because I want to learn more about how herbs work with different systems of the body. I just need to do that for me. It's a personal thing.
He also has a lot of YouTube videos that are free.
And I watch them.
Every herb you can imagine.
Yeah, and I just love him. And so this book has a lot of, yes.
Can you say his name one more time?
Who? Dr.
That has the YouTube videos.
Oh, Dr. Patrick Jones. And I actually have a list of all those resources on a handout you can take of all these different places and people you can get into contact with, emails, etc.
Okay.
So, a neat story about Dr. Christopher. He was doing a class in Arizona many, many years ago. And a woman got up and said, so we know there's going to be some kind of a plague that's going to come in the last days. And do you have a remedy for that? And he was a very humble man. And he said, no, but let me pray about it. He stepped out of the class, connected with Heavenly Father, and came back into the room with his anti-plague formula. And that is in the book. And it tastes terrible. I'll just like, it's awful.
I tasted it too.
It's bad. It's got a lot of garlic in it.
I have some in my fridge right now. if anyone-
Anti-plague, yeah. So
That'll
that's
kill
one of his.
anything.
But I've made a lot of his recipes in here. There's another one. It's Dr. Shook. It's a tonic that has horseradish, and it's supposed to be good for plague too. It has horseradish and jalapeno peppers and all that. And it's actually really good as a salad dressing, but it's like another variant of the variation of the anti-plague formula. And Dr. Christopher met with a lot of persecution because of what he did. And
Because he lived in the middle of Utah with
Yes.
everybody who basically worshiping the idol calf of the medical mafia.
Exactly.
That's Moses' children out there, man. God has to come save them now.
And
He
he
was
just
also
about went
He was
bankrupt.
also put in jail too. He
Yes.
was arrested.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
And so what he did is he sold a lot of his patents to another herbal company so he could have money to offset his legal cost. And yeah, it was just a really bad situation.
They wanted him out.
Yes, they did.
He
Okay.
was a threat to the medical system,
Yeah.
which that's basically a money system. Really. It's
Yep.
really powerful. Yeah.
So just a couple, I've got a binder over there, and you're more than welcome to look through it at lunch or after class or whatever. I have a whole section of many pharmaceutical drugs that are made from plants. For example, you've heard of Valium? It comes from valerian,
Mhm.
okay? For breast cancer, I don't know why I always have a mental block. It's I don't know, is it Taxol? There is a drug for breast cancer. Well, it's good for other cancers, but they found it works very well specifically for women with breast cancer. And it comes from the Pacific yew tree. And the pharmaceutical companies have just about deforested all of the Pacific yews because I think it's Taxol. That's it, Taxol. So it's a breast cancer drug. And that comes from Pacific from the Pacific yew tree.
But they've harvested all the living trees,
Yes. And they're not doing anything
replaced,
to replant those, no, because it's big money, big pharma, big money, and they don't care.
right?
And so that was kind of aggravating to me. Let's see, what else? I'm trying to think. Let me go grab that real quick.
Well, there's a lull. Can I tell a story?
Yes.
I located for 20 years. I was locating a gas line along the mountain in Utah on the Wasatch Front. And I came upon a guy that was taking pictures, a surveyor. And it's very difficult packing your equipment, doing this work, and you're hot and sweaty and miserable. And he said, did you know that if you take the sage plant and you rub it between your fingers and you breathe it, it will give you energy? And I'm here to tell you that
It's
Yeah.
true. I'm here to say it
I've
too.
used it a lot.
Yes.
And,
And sage will do so much for it on so many levels. There's so
I
many
hated
things.
it till I moved to Utah.
And it really is the mother's herb.
Yeah.
The sage is the mother, it's all of the women's stages. So it's for menstrual, for birth, and for menopausal.
Right.
It's such a holistic herb for mother, and we have it everywhere.
Everywhere.
I went to the river yesterday and picked a bunch, so I'll
Yeah,
bring it out.
Yeah,
and
I
we can
did
pass it
too.
around and smell it.
Yeah, I
I'll
did
go get
too.
it.
So how many of you have ever seen a foxglove flower growing? Like, do you have it in your yard or, okay, that's what they make digitalis and digitoxin for people. It comes from foxglove. I'm just trying to remember, let's see. I have some of my glasses on. I'm just, I don't know what it
hard to
is.
see it. Okay, but it's still sage. Take a piece of it. if you
Anyway,
want.
I'll just let you guys look through that, but those are just some plants that the pharmaceutical companies are using. And then what they're doing, they're using plants, but they're still adding synthetics to the plant. So you're not getting the pure medicine of the plant. I read an interesting article about bear aspirin. Do you know where aspirin comes from?
As willow.
Willow, that's right, white willow. And it does come from aspen
Okay.
too. It does, you're
Okay.
right about that. And they get that from the inner bark on the tree. Well, there was Bear Company had a scientist, a chemist who came up with that, and he patented it. But we stole it during World War II from Bear out of Germany. And then we used it here. And we were so gracious and gave it back to Germany about 15 years ago. So they got that back. There's something else I was gonna tell you about that.
Can I just make a comment? I think
Yes.
it's interesting with what we're coming into right now, where, things could be broken down in our society to the point where people couldn't get their prescriptions, right?
That's right,
Or even be able to get hospital
right.
care or anything, right? So understanding this is really vital, isn't it?
It's very,
Yeah.
And that's my push. This is why I'm trying to learn what I can. Another thing about herbs too, that's what I was gonna mention before. Sometimes the books don't always get it right. As far as they'll tell you to plant something in the sun or the shade or whatever, and you follow it and then your plant dies, whatever. So that happened to me a couple of times. So the second and third year that I started doing plants, I would always buy 3 of whatever. And I would put one in the shade, I would put one in the sun, and I would put one in partial shade, just to see how they would do. And I heard it tell you, comfrey will grow anywhere.
I have so much. of it.
Anywhere. If someone were to ask me what would be the number 1 plant I would have, it would be comfrey, number 1. Because it is so good for so many things.
Yes. It's good for the perineum, and it's good for any kind of like big wound.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I was gonna share a couple of experiences that I've had with comfrey and a couple of people that I talked with. Oh, here we go. Last summer, I was a big dummy. My husband brought home a portable swamp cooler. We bought it and he was getting it all set up, and there's a little fan on the back, and it was up on the upper right side with the door off. I put my hand in there to look, and I cut my finger right to the bone. I have pictures on my phone. I cut my finger to the bone in 2 places. That hurt so bad. And of course it was bleeding like crazy. I put my finger, I put my hand around it like this, and I said, I'm gonna have to get stitches at the hospital. And the spirit went, no, 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 you're not. This is your chance to practice what you've been doing.
Thanks for
See you
coming,
guys later.
guys. Hey,
So,
you made
I
time for
had
us.
time.
That was so fun that you got to
Thanks for
come.
coming, you guys.
See you later.
So I had cayenne powder in a sprinkle bottle. I went in the kitchen while I'm holding it because it's bleeding like everywhere. And I said, Lynn, just put it on my finger. So he did. And I had cayenne tincture, and I took a dropper full. It's really not that bad. It's not. So I took a dropper full of cayenne tincture.
Does it coagulate?
Yes,
Blood.
because it clots the blood. And then 15 minutes later, I took it again. But when I took my finger off, it was just oozing. It wasn't even bleeding anymore. The cool thing about the cayenne powder, though, I put it on, and I'm here to tell you, it burned like you know what,
Like
right?
methylate, we live.
And I
through
went-
methylate.
Just like that. I went, oh, that burns for about 15 seconds. And then it was just warming. It was very, very warm, and it felt so good on that bone. And the next day, the skin was all avulsed and it was all black and blue. I've got pictures on my phone. I was trying to do like a PowerPoint. I've never done that. I couldn't get it to work. Next time. But anyway, it was all swollen. So I took pictures of it every single day. So at the end of the first day, the bleeding had stopped. I had left the cayenne powder on all day long. And then that night, before I went to bed, I just very gently rinsed off what I could. And I started putting comfrey salve that I made on the wound. And I'm here to tell you, 9 days later, it was completely healed. And what happens with herbal medicine that's different from getting stitches, your stitches heal from the outside in. But with herbal medicine, things heal from the inside out. So there's less opportunity for scarring. Now I have a teeny itty bitty little scar, but you can barely see it. If I had put some vitamin E oil on it, that might have worked. That might have helped. But I was so excited that it was getting better within that few amount of days. Just 9 days.
For tetanus, you need the healing to occur from the inside out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For
You can
anything,
heal
for
Yes.
any kind of
Yeah.
infection.
Yes.
Get it
Exactly.
That's why you don't want to rush it.
And then the last thing I wanted to share about
Back to the comfrey,
yes.
isn't there something about a risk with
Yeah.
salmonella? Is that what it is?
Or with the comfort?
No, that if you have a certain bacteria in there and you put that on there, then it covers it and then it causes more problems.
Okay.
Underneath?
I haven't heard that or read that, but there's okay. So
Possible
let me
with
tell
the
you what.
comfrey if you did it too soon or something like that. Maybe that
I've
if
heard
the,
something.
if it hadn't. used or
There's been some talk going around, and I've heard a couple of midwives tell me you don't ever give comfrey to pregnant or lactating women.
You don't get what?
You don't give
You mean
comfrey.
orally?
Oh, right, yeah.
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 Okay. And I'm like, okay, so I want to get to the facts.
Right.
So I did a lot of research on it. So here's what happened. A woman gave some comfrey tincture to her kid. I don't know how many years ago. I've got all kinds of articles. I didn't bring that one, but I figured, take my word for it. You can research it yourself. But she gave her kid like 20 times the amount that you would give to an adult over several days. And it caused some problems with this kid's liver. Okay.
And so that became this
And
talk of the
so,
town.
and so of course,
Yeah.
the FDA wants to stop people
And they'll just
from
grab onto
using
that stuff.
a lot. Speaking of the FDA, I have it's called, have you ever heard of the 503A? The FDA is trying to shut down many over-the-counter implants. I've got the list in my binder that you can look at, and they want to do this by next spring.
Right.
And then they have another list of the other ones, like quercetin. I call it quercetin. Some people call it quercetin. They're trying to get that eliminated so that you can't buy it. Yes.
I work at like an herbal doctor's office, and we have had to rename a lot of our supplements because the FDA has
You
taken
work
them.
in a naturopath's office right now?
Yeah.
Where?
I'm in Idaho Falls. It's called Wholesome Health and Aesthetics.
How fun.
Yeah. But we've had to rename a bunch of our supplemental products.
Around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they take them
Yeah.
off the market, and then it's
Right.
technically illegal for us to sell them with that
Right.
name. So.
So, and, yeah, and so
crazy.
when
It's like
someone,
they're buying Mother Earth.
They've been
They think they can
that
own
for
Mother Earth.
a
Like
long
that's
time.
It's
gotta be
crazy.
something wrong about
I remember
Yeah.
when they said that comfrey, they scared everybody because if you have any cancer cells, because it generates cells so quickly that, yeah, you would, if you had cancer, it could make it just go like wildfire.
right, and I read a paper on, because I read a lot of science papers too, because I like to be able to back up what
So
I'm
what's your
doing.
thoughts on that?
About comfrey?
Just making the cancer cells.
I've not ever heard that or read
Yeah,
that, but, so here's the thing. They do tell you not to use it for comfrey, not to use comfrey for people that have any kind of liver issues. I get that. But the thing of it is, the study that they did it on rabbits, and they gave rabbits 200
Right.
times more comfrey than what you would
It's
give
so
to a human.
absurd.
And then they go,
Crazy.
okay, well, this is really bad. That's gonna really do a
Of
number on your
course.
liver. Yes.
So
Okay.
unnatural.
Okay,
So unnatural.
It's
Good
the wisdom
Lord.
part. You're using
exactly.
your wisdom.
Yeah, they're missing the wisdom. And that's the same with pregnancy. I've had so many times where people will say, oh, you can't take that when you're pregnant. There's this
Right.
giant list of stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? Maybe in the first 3 months, you might want to avoid that, but probably it's fine now in your 5, 6 months or whatever.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff is really extreme.
And you'll read
You know.
in some herbal books, they have to cover their rear ends.
Yeah.
So they'll tell you all the stuff that it's supposed, they don't say it from
Disclaimer.
their own, yes.
Yeah.
They'll tell you what supposedly is good for it, and then there's always a contraindication on every single page
For
of why you
pregnancy.
shouldn't use it. And it's like, okay,
So comfrey probably cures cancer.
Yeah.
probably.
You know?
So if
I
you're,
think if you're, this is what came to my mind, I just want to say this because it was, I felt like it was a prompting. It's the sugar that really grows the cancer, it's the sugar,
Mhm.
and it feeds on sugar, right? So it's the comfrey, it's all in connection with what the holistic picture is. You know, if you're using comfrey, but then you're not doing anything else to support yourself, maybe that could cause it to grow. I think it has to be taken into consideration with, you know, your lifestyle, your diet, your what other herbs are you taking? But herbs taken in their simplest form, not made into extreme 200 times concentrates by these
Right.
FDA people that are trying to prove it bad. That's a conspiring thing.
right.
So we have to
Going
realize.
back to Brigham Young again, you have to take some responsibility for yourself. And I think the frequency, for me, truth has a frequency, and as we
Yes.
understand that and embrace that and continue on that journey, I think that that's where we need to get back into asking and praying about it.
Yeah.
And searching.
Because in general, people are only too happy to go to a doctor and say, fix me,
You're
right.
make me
Push your
better,
agency.
instead of us. And this is our temple, and we're responsible to take care of our own temple, take personal responsibility, and we're giving our personal power away.
It's easier
Oh, yeah,
because somebody else takes responsibility.
because we're not willing
for-
to exercise faith, and it is an exercise. It really
We've
is.
been conditioned to do that.
Absolutely.
So it's a conspiring issue again.
Yeah.
So just a couple more things I want to share, because comfrey is such a big deal to me. I went down to Sanpete County, and there were some people that wanted to learn how to make tinctures and salves and stuff. So we did comfrey. And my friend has a horse, and a neighbor came over and said, hey, could I ride your horse? And when she came back, she'd cinched the saddle so tight that the horse's sides were just raw. The fur was gone, the horse was bleeding, and
Oh.
she was not happy about that. But after learning about comfrey and making her own salve, she goes, what the heck? I'm going to try that, see if it works on my horse. Because what we use for medicine, we can use on our animals as well. So she went out and she started putting comfrey salve on her horse, and it was all healed over in about 3 days, completely healed. She goes, I don't know if the fur is going to come back or the hair. I don't know what you call it on horses. I don't know that much, but it worked.
Wow.
And then her son had fallen at work and ripped something in his shoulder. And his wife made the salve at the class. She goes, Ken, start trying that, see if that works. Within 3 days, he'd been to several doctors, and they were talking about doing surgery. He was fine after using that. Now, a midwife that I met down there in Mount Pleasant, very interesting story she told me about comfrey. So as you know, we had drought. I don't know how it was in Idaho. It was so bad that they could only get 2 cuttings of alfalfa this year, especially down in Sanpete County. And the second cutting was not very good. So they have several horses and they got oat straw for the horses, and the horses would not eat it. They just would not eat it. They were used to their alfalfa. They didn't want oat straw. And she has 3 great big comfrey plants in her yard, and she's walking past and she's like, just kind of talking to herself. And she's like, what am I going to do about these? You know, how am I going to get my horses to eat? And their cattle too. How am I going to get them to eat? And the comfrey talked to her and said, pick us and just lay us on top of the oat straw. So she just laid comfrey leaves on top of the oat straw. And she said her animals went crazy. They were just chowing it down, chowing it down, chowing it down. And then she was impressed the next day to do the same thing. And she laid it out. And then from then on, she said, we haven't had a problem. They're eating it. So I don't know that much about animals, but I know cows have 4 stomachs, and maybe going from, you know, it's like our cats and our dogs get picky about what they eat. Maybe cows are the same way. I don't know.
Nutritionally deficient, so.
It's not good to eat.
Yeah,
Right.
I would
so,
never feed my horses.
yeah.
Unless
know-
you had to.
Right.
And maybe it was something else. I don't know. I know it wasn't. I thought she said oat straw.
Even grass hay, you have a hard time getting to eat.
Well, whatever it was, it worked, and they put
Yeah,
the
that's
weight back
interesting.
on. So I
Wow.
thought that was
Yeah, maybe
really
it's
great.
so
Selena, you were gonna say something?
No, our neighbors trained his horses to eat the straw all winter long.
Oh, okay, okay. So
Can
anyway, I
make
just,
a comment about that.
yes,
So the comfrey, when I was a little girl, my father knew about comfrey. So my dad was an herbalist and very natural. And whenever, like my brother one time, he got in a 4-wheel drive accident and his entire arm was embedded with gravel.
Mm.
We took him to emergency and they were like picking it out one at a time, and it wasn't working. They finally just wrapped it up, and it was just pockets of dirt and gravel and everything. And my dad brought him home. He made a comfrey poultice from the fresh comfrey in the yard. I just want to say I've eaten comfrey. You can eat comfrey. It's
Yep.
very delicious.
Mhm.
And you know, you can make tea out of it. I think comfrey is a really great plant. It's so hardy. And what we did was, well, my dad put this, I'll never forget this. I mean, and it was when I was a child. I'll never forget. I think I was a young teenager. But the whole poultice went on, thick poultice, just comfrey, smashed up really hard, and then wrapped. Now that thing stayed on there for 3 days. And when he pulled it off, it was like, I'm not kidding you, it was like every single solitary piece of dirt, every rock, everything that was in that arm, he had like, it was like dipped in. I mean, his arm looked like it was all bumpy and everything. I mean, he has a big scar on his, well, he died actually, but he has a big scar on his arm. Yeah, I can feel the spirit right now. He's here, my brother Paul. And it was completely clean. It looked like it was all like, it was all regrowing and it was all building. I mean, it was just like, it was a miraculous thing. I've never seen anything like that. So yeah. So, you know, I think the bad rap about comfrey was kind of almost created by the,
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. They vilified it as much as they could.
I don't know if you're gonna do this or not, but what I'd really like to do is, I'd like, when you're ready and if you have time, is to speak just a little bit about each of the tinctures, like what they're used for. Not so much about how we make them and that, but what.
Oh, yeah, and I actually have handouts with that exact information, when to use it, how to use it, and dosaging.
But I'd like to go over it too.
Okay,
if we
that's
can.
not, yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
And the one more thing I wanted to share with you about comfrey. A friend of mine, I did a little class at a shop down in Bountiful a couple of weeks ago, and again, because I love comfrey, and it's a real simple salve to learn how to make. So we were doing that, and the gal there said that she was taking care of her irresponsible daughter's dog who had puppies, and the dog got mastitis, and the puppies wouldn't nurse, and she didn't know what to do. So she called her neighbor next door who had the same kind of puppies because they breed them and sell them. And her friend came over and she goes, yep, she's got mastitis. She goes, I know what to do. She goes home, she grabs comfrey salve, and she put comfrey salve on and the puppies wouldn't nurse. She put the comfrey salve on the mama's teats, and the puppy started nursing with the comfrey on there. broke up the mastitis, and the puppies were able to
praise-
nurse the very
That's-
next
I used
day.
that. I had mastitis with 2 kids. It's very painful.
Yeah, I have too. Did you
Really
use
is.
Comfrey?
No, I went to the doctor and it outrageous me $100 for stupid medicine.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I,
right.
Like the
yeah.
full symptoms and not the actual.
It's awful.
Yeah.
And then I just want to share this one last story. Like I said, I like to look at the scientific, I'm going through the Old Testament and reading about all the different herbs and how they were used and why they were used. Pretty fascinating. So you all know the story of the Hans Mill massacre and Amanda Smith's son getting his hip blown off, right? Okay, so,
Can you just say it again for the people on the tape that's maybe don't
yes, the Hans Mill massacre. And there was an article written, let's see, I'm gonna see if I can give you the source for it so they can look it up. It was in LDS Living magazine. I don't have the year, but it was called The Revelation That Saved One Boy Shot During the Hans Mill Massacre. And I have the story here from Amanda Smith's journal, her notes. If I can get through this without crying, because this is my testimony. The Heavenly Father is the greatest physician. We hear that word, but do we really know it? And it wasn't until I read this story and did the research on the herbs that she used, the medicine she used to heal her son. So I actually went to, they were living in, I can't remember I'm not good with states. So she used wood. The very first thing she used was wood ash out of the fire, okay? And the kind of wood it was, I'm just looking to see if I can find it really quick. I can't find it right now. But wood ash and charcoal ash, there was a science study done, again, on rabbits, and they excised bone from these rabbits. And then they used, it was called shag elm. I'll find it in a minute. And they used that on the rabbits, and within 11 days, their hips and the bone grew back, and these rabbits were completely healed within 11 days. And they did a study using other medicines and bacitracin and zinc oxide and all that, and it took like 3 weeks, where this only took 9 to 11 days using the wood ash. And their conclusion was that ashes accelerated the wound healing process and gave maximum cover as an antiseptic and an anti-infective. And complete recovery was observed within a period between the 11th and the 13th day. So, and then the next thing she did is she sent her son out after she did the wood ash. Then she sent her son out to get slippery elm bark. And it's, they said that the inner bark, the science study said that it has some similarities to human tissue. And it absorbs and transfers nutrients through the organism of the plant. And so she put that on, and it's mucilaginous. So it kept the bone from drying out. You put the ashes on there, but then the bone would actually get dry and brittle and start breaking. So that's why she did the slippery elm for the next part. And in the slippery elm, it contains calcium, amino acids, antioxidants, carbohydrates, iodine, bromine, and sugars. Then the last thing she put on there, and this one I had to do a little digging for, she sent her son, her husband and one of her other sons were killed, but she retrieved his jacket, and in his jacket, he had balsam. And I'm like, okay, so how did he use balsam? Well, at that time, they used resin from the balsam trees, and they would put it in little dark bottles. And that was the last thing. And balsam fir grows in Missouri, so I'm sure he probably got it from an herbalist. And as I said, it wasn't in the Hans Mill story, but I would guess from the description given, it was balsam from the resin. And the Penobscot Indians used the resin as an antiseptic for burns, sores, and wounds. Now, this kid had a gunshot wound, so you know there there was the burn. The sap has both antiseptic and analgesic properties. And it also fights against E. coli and staph, which I thought was good to know. So anyway, so there was that article about that. And then I actually have the science study that was done. If anybody's into the whole scientific thing, you can sure look at that. So that is it. I think I've covered like the things that I thought were important. And then I've got a few articles from different midwives that have used a lot of these different herbs. I've got the basic, with talking with different midwives, they gave me about 8 common tinctures that they actually use. One of these lovely ladies is now retired. She's delivered like 3,000 babies. I mean, a lot of babies down in Utah. She's just a sweetheart. And then Dr. Jones's wife is a midwife now. She's a licensed midwife and she's a licensed master herbalist. And so she uses it. And I got to have her in my home visiting and got her set up to do her internship in North Ogden. She was looking for a place where she was supposed to go. It fell through. And I called a lady that was in my work and she said, yeah, I'll take her on as an intern. So she came down and spent, I forgot how many weeks in North Ogden, stayed with her. So she had a list. So she came to my house and I showed her what tinctures that I had. And she goes, yep, that's good and that's good. And I'm not too sure about this one. You know, I have some concerns. Now I have heard, and I just want to share this with you. I've had a couple of people share some concerns about shepherd's purse for hemorrhaging. I haven't found anything contrary or whatever that says not to use shepherd's purse. And I've heard people say that it's a biennial or a biannual. It's not. Shepherd's purse comes up every year. And they say it's too strong in the first year. Your burdock is a biannual. And Celine, if you've got any, because I know you do plant walks, you can put your 2 cents. I'm willing to hear anybody's opinion on that.
Well, I'd like to say one thing about
Yes.
the shepherd's purse, and that is that I've seen it be used now for about 35 years straight
Okay, great.
in like hundreds of applications myself.
Okay,
midwives,
great.
And I know
Yeah.
for a fact that it helps produce, it's one of the most mild, actually, not just something that you would use for a hemorrhage,
Mhm.
but something that you can use to actually proactively prevent the hemorrhage.
Right, exactly.
Especially if it's a fresh tincture with fresh herb.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying you don't have, I mean, we're gonna make the dry herb today,
Mhm.
right? But I think it's good to have a backup story of the dry herb. But then I also think it's really good to know how to pick the fresh herb and how to make a fresh tincture,
Exactly.
which is a little different. than a powder.
And we can get into that a little bit too after. What time is it? I don't want to go past your lunch.
Well, let's just have a look at the time.
It's 11:30.
Oh, we're fine. Keep
Okay,
going, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
great. Not sure where I should go with this. Like I said, I've never done a presentation before.
I would like it if you got the handout that you're gonna, and go over it with us so we know how do we use these herbs?
Okay.
Because I think that's important,
I have those
that we
right
know
here.
how to use them. The ones that we're making, like the 8 ones that we're making, we can review them.
I think it's this one.
I have Amu kits that I have over there that are dirty. We just have to rinse them out a little bit. They're used ones that I bought, so each person.
Do you want me to just hand them out right now, or do you want to wait?
Sure,
till
hand them
after?
out and then go over it. We can
Here you
just
go. I'll let you
hold it
pass
while
those
we're going
around.
over it. Maybe somebody else can hand them out. Naomi, can you help her? Thanks.
Now, I want to reiterate again, this is information that I have gleaned from different midwives, in-person interviews, and things that I've gotten emails. And
I got 2.
I got one.
Yes, I've got 2.
Me too. We just got lucky.
This one is actually one that you can just fold and put into a plastic envelope and put it into your ammo tincture
Right, and
box.
keep it in there as
Yes.
you're as your information page. Yeah, you put it in a
Yeah,
nice thick
and
page.
I've got more in-depth information here. Like this one's called Birthing Tinctures and Procedures. I'll hand that one out to you.
Is there any way you can send me the files of these so I can post them on the link or no?
I have them on my flash drive. If I
You
don't,
do?
yeah, and I brought it with me.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sad.
Well, maybe we can actually load them in, and when Faylene posts it, if you load them into the,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The
That's why I
iPad.
made extra.
so when
'cause I
she
did-
posts
Yeah, that'd be
the
perfect.
link, she can put this at the
Yeah,
bottom of the
yeah.
YouTube thing.
Yeah, do you,
Okay.
Yeah.
you know how to do all that?
Yes.
Oh, very good. And I might be talking to you. You can teach me how to do some of that. She wanted to use Zoom. I said, I don't know how to do that. I don't have it on my phone. Anyway, so this one here with the top 8 that I have, this was like pretty consistent with several midwives that I spoke with. So that's kind of why I went with those. There are others. Now, here's a cool thing about herbs that I've learned. Herbs are like a prescription. In one respect, they're like, an example I'll use is antibiotics. So you go to the doctor, you have some kind of a bacterial infection, and the doctor gives you an antibiotic, and it works great for you, but it doesn't work great for your kid. That happens a lot. That happens with herbal medicine too. So then you have to go back to the doctor, and he'll find another herb that works, or another a drug or a prescription drug that might work. It's that sometimes happens with herbs. Some herbs will work for some people, and sometimes they don't for others. A gal, I did a presentation, not like this. I was at Constitution Days in Bountiful when they asked me to do an apothecary, and this woman came over, and her kids all got impetigo. And she had an herbal remedy that she used for her kids, and it worked on all of them except one kid.
What did she use?
I don't remember.
Tea tree oil, maybe?
No, she made something. I can't
Okay.
remember what she said she used. And so she had to use a different one for this one particular kid, and then he was fine. So you're going to find that with herbs, and herbs are different. When you're doing tinctures, they're a little different than pharmaceutical drugs, because you got your little bottle and you take so many milligrams and you take it like 3 times a day for 10 days or something. Herbs, when you have something that's actively going on, you're going to want to use it a lot more often than 3 times. You might be doing it every 2 hours.
Yes.
And you're going to take a few dropperfuls or something. Yes.
So one of the things that I found is people will be like, oh yeah, I took the herb and I felt better, but then it came back. And I'll be like, well, did you keep using it?
Right.
Here they go to the doctor and they're going to take this 3 times a day for 7 days, but
Yes.
the herb, they're like, oh yeah, well, I felt a bit better, but then it came back. Like, well, it's not magic. You didn't just take this magic pill that made it all go away.
Right.
You have to keep using it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you do.
that's-
And I just want to make a comment. I know that this is a childbirth class, but when I worked in Mexico in the Central Highlands, and I was living in a tiny little, very, very, very poverty-stricken village there, there was a lot of impetigo. I would see a lot. I would go around and make house calls to these families, right? And so it wasn't just the pregnant mom I was visiting the whole family.
Oh, yeah.
And like, what I learned is that in poor conditions, when things get like when we have people in tents, thousands of people living all over this place in tents, and
Oh,
we're
yeah.
ministering to them every day, we will have a lot of impetigo. So we need to learn, because it just gets rampant, and it goes from child to child to child, and it
Yep.
can be really serious.
Yeah.
So yeah, learning what herbs, tea tree oil comes to my mind.
And now I don't know. Yeah. And what I use when my kids got impetigo, I use golden seal powder.
Golden seal powder
Just
is great.
straight
It's
golden
so
seal powder.
expensive,
Oh,
just
yeah.
straight.
Let me tell you how much it is right now.
Yeah.
$168 a pound. I
Oh my
just went to
gosh.
Bountiful, and she's not even going to carry it because she can't afford to. So
Good
there was
time to buy it and keep it though, and not have.
That's
Why
true.
it's good to be able to go out in the yard.
And
There are some
so
things
there
like
are
this,
alternatives.
like the tea tree oil. I find can kill such a wide
Mhm.
spectrum.
Right.
But what's in our own backyard that can replace those herbs?
Right.
I'm questioning. Would you know?
I think that the problem with comfrey was the staff.
That
They
would
to
start?
not Put the sap on it.
On the staff,
And that's what
It's better.
impetigo is, the staff.
right? It's staff. Okay, what can we use on staff? what can we use? I mean, I know people that have had their feet fall off from stuff, you know, I mean, it's a pretty serious thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just
For
curious,
tracking MRSA, same thing, same.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
what's strong enough to cover it?
That's something-
wormwood?
You know,
That's something I'll look
I-
into.
What if you could
I'll
make a stab
research
out of
that.
wormwood?
I've used.
Oh, yeah, you can.
I've used DMSO on it, but I don't know how to make. DMSO.
Yeah, now you have to buy it, yeah. That
Yeah,
stuff's nasty.
I've got some grandkids that there's 10 of them and they had a big problem with it. They pass it back and forth.
Yeah, they
What
do.
about vinegar? What about just white vinegar? Like having a bunch of white vinegar?
Or how about apple cider vinegar, and you can make your own. I brought a recipe and I brought some that I made.
There you go.
Yeah,
Apple
and
cider
it's
vinegar is
easy
a
peasy to
kind
make.
of a.
And you can make
remedy.
vinegar out of any fruit. The pioneers didn't waste anything. They made what they call fruit scrap vinegar, but we'll talk about that
But you know
later.
what
Scrap
else?
vinegar, okay.
Take it deeper. Maybe the root cause of impetigo is you need the wormwood. You need to clean up some stuff first,
Before you put the comfrey on.
and that might take care of the problem.
Yeah, right, because you don't want to put the comfrey on.
I will say this, about wormwood. They say it's the most bitter herb in the Bible. They are not kidding. They did not lie. I take it every day and I have to do a peanut butter chaser after. I'm serious. I brought my peanut butter with me because it gets you right back here, like where my tonsils used to be. I can still, like a half an hour later, I can still like feel it, taste it back there. But if I do a little bit of peanut butter, like on a piece of apple or something, it just kind of coats that or something. I don't know. It's not good to take.
So
And
your
now,
kids aren't gonna take that.
well, my friend, what she does, she takes her dried wormwood and she powders it and she puts it into capsules. And she goes, I'm not very brave. I
What about
can't.
an enema?
You know, that's a
That's a
thought.
good idea.
Enemas
Actually,
are fantastic. They can be, you can do boluses where you can do implants too. Where you do the enema, you flush out the bowel with some, just
But you can
distilled
introduce,
water or
there's
whatever,
so
and
many
then you put a
things
bolus
Yes.
in
that
there
you
of
don't do
implant.
with enemas. Like if you don't have access to IV fluids and
Mhm.
you've
That's
got a
exactly-
dehydrated infant,
Yeah.
you start using your enemas.
Yeah.
The body absorbs the
You
liquid.
can put a
Yeah.
mixture of blackstrap molasses that will give with water. That'll give minerals to the laboring mother.
Right.
And also you can do like if you happen to have wheatgrass juice or something like that, you can also put that in there. If you have a bunch of wheat and you're sprouting it,
Right.
you can make juice out of that and put it in there, and that will really do. They do that in a clinic in California that
Yeah.
I've been to.
Well, Joseph Smith had enemas regularly.
He did.
Oh, yes. He
How
had,
do you? I talk about that. I want that book.
this
Okay.
is, you can
Say
order.
the name of the book.
This is Joseph, it's Joseph Smith and Herbal Medicine.
Wow.
And it's by John
I
Heinerman.
want
He
that.
lives down in, down by Mona, down in that area, somewhere in that area. I actually got this book. I think you can get it online. I got it from a great store in Spanish Fort called Confetti Books. They have like all kinds of unusual, a lot of LDS publications that are not your normal run-of-the-mill stuff. So Joseph Smith had his own, you heard of Pretty Meeks. Okay, Pretty Meeks was an herbalist. He went through the Thomsonian School. He was sent there to learn herbal medicine. Willard Richards was an herbalist. And so was, I didn't bring the other paper. So Joseph Smith had his own personal,
Consulter.
Yes.
Yeah.
and he also had one for the Mormon Battalion. He hated doctors. So their Surgeon General was a botanist, herbalist who studied at the Thomsonian School. Not only that, this is maybe a little controversial. You can do your own homework. I don't have all the references with me.
Oh, somebody grab the door. Sorry to interrupt.
But when Joseph
I just saw
turned
someone
the
kick in
keys to the
glass.
women for Relief Society, he was not only doing that, he wanted the women to learn about herbal medicine. He sent women back east to learn herbal medicine, to come back and teach to all the other women within their community while they were at
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he was really, really into that. And that's what this, and the other thing they did that I thought was really cool, it is not in this book, and I couldn't find my reference. But did you know when they built the Manti Temple that they did healing for sickness at the turn of the century in all the temples. People go to the temple to have healings done, and they would they would actually be baptized in the water for healing. But outside of the Manti Temple, they had these women that were herbalists, and they had consecrated oil, and they actually put herbs into the consecrated oil, and people would come out and buy it and take it home to use at home.
Wow.
And not only that, they had the authority to give blessings to other women, their families, people in the community, and they didn't just do the top of the head. If the mother had problems with her reproductive, they used a consecrated oil with specific herbs for that purpose, and they anointed that part of the body to help that
Wow.
body to heal.
That's
There's
really
a lot
neat.
of documentation on that. They did a big thing at the Orson Bean Museum, and we missed it by about 2 weeks. They had a whole display on all this. I saw it online. I wanted to go in there and check that out. So a lot of this stuff you kind of really have to dig for to get that
It makes
information.
sense.
Well, it
Yeah.
does make sense. And
Yeah,
who
it makes
and who
sense.
better? Because women are naturally the healers. That's in their DNA. They are healers. We
Yeah.
just have been kind of had that.
We are healers. We depended on the arm of flesh for how many decades?
Right,
Right.
right. Okay, so
I don't know if you had already said this, but when they began the society, they set it up more like the priesthood forms, and it was to prepare the women to officiate as priesthood holders in the temple
that's
ceremony.
exactly right.
And I was quite excited that this Sunday, a member of the bishopric came into the Relief Society meeting and said, we used to do this in sacrament meeting, but now we're going to be doing it in Relief Society. And he did the releasing and the sustainings right there, just like they do in the priesthood quorums.
Mhm.
And I thought, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Starting
awesome.
to give the Relief Society the respect of the priesthood quorums. It's just the woman's arm of it.
That's
It's
exactly
not
right.
like
And when
nothing.
and Joseph recognized that, he understood that women were equal, not subordinate, not subservient. And he was trying to bring women into their power, but because of traditions, hundreds of years of traditions, it was really hard for them to embrace that. And I know he must have been frustrated sometimes. He would say that it was like, like a Dodger and not wood is like trying to get stuff into their heads. Come on, we can do this. But he understood that. He understood woman's place. It was equal to, not here.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that was great. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the
Can I just
ammo
mention
box.
too that we're not just healers, but we're the nurturers
That's
for the home and hearth.
That's right.
And that includes, I feel, the spirit. It's the husband or the partner, the man and the woman and all the children and anybody who enters. So yeah, we have a big responsibility. And when we have people coming from other cities and other areas that don't have homes,
Mhm.
we're not going to be just for our own home and hearth, but we're going to be serving for childbirth, for healing, for nurturing a wounded soul. I mean, and some of these herbs can be very okay, I know you like to talk about the science and how it's all proven and everything, but there's a whole nother element to it where
Absolutely.
there's the personality of the plant. There's the spirit of the plant, and there's also
Exactly.
the placebo effect of the plant, which hey, placebo is great.
And I'm
Yeah.
glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, my legs are tingling right now.
Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
This is what I've experienced. You're right.
That's the
We
new-
need to be at a place where when we're working with plants, we need to be communicating with them and we need to be listening to them. Because this has been my experience. I'll have some women that work with plant medicine, they said, oh, you can never use that plant for that. That's not what that's for. Well, guess what? I go out and the plant tells me, oh, yes, you can. You are gonna,
It's
you
like
are gonna
raspberry
use me.
leaves. It's for everything.
Yes.
And
Yes, you can.
and so you go by the Spirit. You will go. And I'm telling you guys, this is what's going to get us through because, okay, so I've been working and trying to learn as much as I can about plants for 13 years. And the Spirit says to me, don't worry about it. Well, when the time comes, you're doing the right thing for right now, but you will be shown. Just connect with the plants. Connect with that life force in the plants, and you will be shown how to use them. Funny story. I had a friend who wanted, I had 3 great big wormwood plants, and they get huge, right? I didn't need 3. So I said, yeah, I'll bring you one down. Well, bless my husband's heart. He was so sweet. He went out there and he dug the plant up, and it was sitting in a bag ready to go to her house the next morning. I walked past that plant, and that plant was so mad at me. Oh my gosh, it cussed me out. I'm serious. The plant said, how dare you? You were supposed to come. You're going to bring us to your friend. We wanted you to dig this up. He's a guy. We didn't want him. We wanted you. And so we're kind of ticked off at you. And here I am. I'm talking to this plant in a Walmart plastic bag, apologizing to it. Lesson learned. I'm serious. Yeah. So, yeah.
Next time you listen.
Yeah. And I did. And I said, I'm sorry that, and I did. I said to the plant, I am so sorry that happened. Next time I need a plant moved, I will do it, or I will ask your permission if it's okay for Lynn to do it. And I need to go out and talk. I'm serious. These plants, they talk to us if we
Well,
listen.
now I'm feeling guilty because I weed. I also think about the land. I think about, the thought does occur to me, like I'm just yanking these little plants up because they're inconveniently growing in certain areas. But my mother, nothing could grow that had value. She had like a little mulberry tree. Like if you've got a bunch of them growing, she'd have to dig them up and take them somewhere and plant them or put them in a pot or a container.
Right.
Or she couldn't just discard it.
Right.
Yes.
So
Right.
Can I make a point about the idea of being in tune with the Spirit? Like you're talking about in tune with the connection of the plant.
Mhm.
And then there's another level I'm just thinking about out of labor. I think it'd be fun to go through some of these and what we would use them for at a labor. And one of the things that you can do also is to check in with the person that you're going to be ministering to. So you just check in, your spirit is checking in with their spirit and you're connecting with them. And it's like, you ask the question, what do you need? You're asking that person's spirit, and that person's spirit can answer. Mm-hmm. Same with, you can ask yourself, what do I need right now? That's where I was showing you Uber Ursi yesterday.
Right.
When I had a need and it was popped right into my mind. It was so easy.
Yep.
If you don't block it with doubt or anything
That's
like
it.
that.
That's the key. We got to practice. When you get that first impression, when I first started doing it, I'm like, I don't know. I would question myself all the time. And what I've learned, and this is what I love, where is it in the Book of Mormon, who talks, I'm so bad with names. Is it Nephi the Younger talks about exercising faith? And it is. It's like using a muscle. So when you get an impression about something and then you start to doubt it, ask yourself, okay, is this going to be harmful in any way? It was not, follow through, do it. And what happens is that gets stronger and stronger until like when it comes, immediately.
You don't
it's like you don't even question anymore. You just know.
Right.
And it's the same way with plants. Yes.
I would add to that you don't have to explain that to anyone, because I find myself sometimes doing things and my husband,
you're right.
My husband will be like, what are you doing? Like, that was so random and strange. And I like, there's not an explanation and I don't have words for it. And that's okay. You know what I mean? Like that he doesn't have to understand all the time.
You're right.
Or the people around you, or exactly.
HG Holy Ghost.
Yeah. Like, just don't ask. Just keep going.
it's like kinesiology.
Mm-hmm.
So you go through this formality of, I have a pendulum, right? Do I really need that? Or is that something that's just helping me access something that
It's just the crutch.
Right.
yeah. And that's like, I'm thinking about kinesiology. There's different forms of it. So
It's the muscle testing. It's kinesiology.
And the spirit works the same. If you can actually I've done it where I've done all kinds of practicing with it and everything. I can muscle test without doing any muscle testing.
Right.
It's not really muscle testing. I'm just asking the Holy Ghost to confirm stuff with me.
And to go with that too, I think sometimes, like you were saying, it goes with what Char just said, you're gonna instinctively, you're gonna already know what that individual needs. But for that person, because they're not at that place yet, they may
Right.
need you to do this.
Right.
Even though you already know.
Right.
But if that makes them feel better and gives them a little bit more
Yeah.
confidence and takes them to, then that's okay too.
Right.
So
That's where the nurturing aspect is. Where
absolutely.
you really keep that every little thing you do with that person, touching them in a really nurturing way, like if they're in labor or whatever, talking to them with eye contact or whatever, those are all just as powerfully healing
Mhm.
as any herb.
Mhm.
In fact, I think it's going to get to the point where we don't even need the herbs.
I
anymore.
agree. I
really
agree.
do. It's just be our
Yeah,
nurturing
interesting.
soul that
Yeah,
will
interesting.
nurture the other person.
Yeah,
And
the
they'll just heal.
elements
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
and the miracles we've been told.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
the muscle testing was a transition into me
Exactly.
being able to just intuitively know what the Holy Ghost wanted. It's the same thing with the herbs. I mean, it's like we're doing our part, we're doing everything we can, and then eventually it's like the tools and all those things that we depend on just get removed, and we've got the skill without them.
Right. Right.
We can just think of the Angelica herb, and just in our mind, we generate that Angelica herb frequency to the woman, and she's already healing.
Right.
There's a bunch of computers and systems already doing this right now, but
Yep.
we don't need a computer.
Right.
We've got better.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not mocking the computer
Okay,
systems, but
so in the ammo box, the tinctures that you guys will be doing, it's pretty self-explanatory. Like I said, I got this from Midwife. This is nothing, I just want you to know, this is not anything I've ever done. I've never given tinctures to a woman in labor or anything. This is just information I've compiled that was a common theme among these different midwives that I spoke with. So, one of the gals that I spoke with down in Orem said that she'd like to have her ladies, I don't know anything about midwifery for you guys, so I'm just sharing information, that's all. But if she was having a little bit of trouble getting started, she really liked to start them in the evening. And so she would alternate between black cohosh and blue cohosh, because that helps to get the labor started, the contractions started, and it also helps to regulate them. And she said they're also really good. Like that happened to me with my third baby. My water broke. I was supposed to have a midwife at home, and I had like a few little pill fart, I call them pill fart contractions, and then nothing. And 48 hours later, I ended up going to the hospital, having to be induced because my labor, because they were afraid of infection. If I'd known about this kind of stuff, that might have been different.
mm-hmm.
So what the blue
Can I
cohosh
just say,
does,
even though you haven't had experience using these herbs,
right.
I have had lots of experience using the black and blue cohosh, and they work great.
Good.
So, yeah.
I'm glad to hear that from
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that means a lot. So, and then what these midwives told me, that it helps to regulate helps regulate blood pressure, and it helps to arrest any potential bleeding that may come. And I've given you the dosages on there too. And again, that's just a starting point. Go by the spirit, when you're working with people.
Which one are you talking about right now?
The black and the blue cohosh,
Okay.
and most of them. Now, interesting thing, this midwife, she has her own practice, and I wanted to demonstrate this. This is the CNC tincture. Where is it? Oh, here it is. So you guys will be making this today, and it's pretty strong. You're gonna, in your little jars that you brought, you're gonna do 1 tablespoon of powdered cinnamon and 1 tablespoon of powdered cayenne, and then you'll fill up to the shoulder with vodka. And this is for hemorrhaging, and if the placenta needs to be delivered and it hasn't.
I think it's good for shock too.
Yes, it is.
And that's what we would use that.
Yes,
for.
and I also have that there. And what she did with her patients, she would just put it in her little jar. She'd just dip 2 straws. She said she would do 2 strawfuls. She'd fill up a straw and then just give it to the mom. And it's really hot and it burns like you know what. But here's the thing: she
with
showed.
a little bit of water.
I suppose you could.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let me show you something. So here you've got your cinnamon, your cayenne, and I lift it upside down. What does that look like? It looks like a placenta.
Yeah.
because it all congeals and it's
Yeah.
all in one big blob right here. So I thought that was really interesting.
Right, because it's kind of showing,
Yes.
it's the signature again, like we talked about.
Yes.
How it travels not just from the plant, but to how
Right.
how it operates, how
Right.
it affects. Okay, I just want to make one disclaimer about this one.
Okay.
There are some schools of thought, okay, that say that, and I don't have personal experience with this, so I don't know.
Okay.
But in the midwifery field, people who say that giving cayenne for a bleed can cause it can cause a secondary bleed, if according to some people. Okay, so I'm
Okay.
just putting that out there as a
Okay. Yeah. I know.
precautionary
Yeah.
note, that don't be rushing too quickly to use cayenne unless you've maybe tried a lot of other things.
Right.
And that's your, because I mean, really, it's when we have emergencies in birth, we have usually kind of what we have. This will be our first line, like maybe the pure shepherd's purse tea with some
Mhm.
cinnamon sticks, and we're just going to give that to her. Okay. We're also doing, massage and everything. Maybe things get a lot worse and we need to go to the blue black cohosh, and then maybe that still isn't working. I mean, this could happen. Okay.
Yeah.
And we go in with the cayenne and the cinnamon.
Yeah, and this is for, and as she explained to me, and maybe I needed to add that there, this
Yes.
is only to be used for an acute situation.
So I
Where
think we should
mom
add
is
that
really
on our
bleeding
papers.
and she could bleed out really
Let's
fast.
put that on our papers because
Yeah.
we don't want that to be our go-to
Yeah,
remedy.
exactly,
Because
exactly.
of the possible effects that can happen. So
But also, we've been talking about it, like check in with the
check
plants.
in.
That's right.
See if this is the right
Is
remedy.
this, do I need to go straight to this? Or
Exactly.
Is this the
And
one
maybe
I
the spirit says, yes, this is going to go bad. You're going to end up using it anyway. So go all the way.
need? Right.
Whatever. Yeah. Or no, you just
Right.
take
No,
this
we
one
don't
step
need
at a
this.
time and
Yeah.
take it slow.
Yeah. And I'm actually I grow black cohosh. It grows very well. So I'm growing it in my backyard. I have one section of all women's. I've got clary sage. I don't have angelica this year. I'll probably replant that in that same area right there. So I've got that in the black cohosh and motherwort. Motherwort grows really well. It grows well in my yard. And I found a bunch up in the hills this summer. And it was one of those plants that called me over. I didn't know it was going to be there. And I was looking, I can't remember what plant I was looking for. And I was just doing some harvesting, and there's like a bunch of, it was only about this much. It was about in a pile like this. And there you go. Come over here. We want your attention. Come over here. Come look at us. And I walked over and I go to Lynn, oh my gosh, that's motherwort. I was so excited because of the drought. My plants did not do well this year. A lot of them did not do. My yarrow didn't do well. So I was really excited because my motherwort, I only got 2 cuttings and it only got about this tall. And usually it's about this tall. And so I was able to get some to put away in my apothecary. So I was excited about that. Cramp bark is used during labor and after the birth to eliminate afterbirth cramping pains. And I had a midwife with my last 3 babies. Cramp bark was great. It was great. And I don't know about taking it when you're nursing, because I know when I was nursing, I don't know how you guys were, like, the Pitocin or whatever, oxytocin, whatever it is, and all of a sudden you just get those afterbirth pains when the baby's latching on. And I did the toe curling, like, oh. I don't know.
Every 30 minutes, just a good dose of that stuff. And
Oh,
you can
really?
Just keep taking as much
Oh,
as you want.
see, and I didn't know that, but
Yeah,
it worked
absolutely.
great after I had my babies.
Yeah, we used to have it at every birth.
Oh, awesome. And that's getting hard to come by the way, in the herb store. So what I want to tell you guys is there are the herbs. I even did a price from Mountain Rose, and I brought their catalogs, and then an herb store that she has such a good variety. But the price of herbs just in the last year have gone up like 30%. It's outrageous how I was just shocked at how much. And even in a month's time, I sent her an email. I said, it's going to cost approximately this much to buy these herbs. And when I got there, they had already gone up again, like $4 or $5 more a pound or something like that. But anyway, so whatever herbs, if you're going to get them, if it's stuff that you can't get here that doesn't grow here, don't waste time. If you can afford to get them, get them.
Yeah.
Because they're just, and some of them, She said there's a couple of them they're not even gonna carry because they're so expensive, people can't afford to buy them, so they're not even gonna carry them anymore.
Like the
So-
golden seal.
Golden seal, she still had a little bit of that left.
Can I
but-
just make a suggestion
Yes.
about the golden seal, since we're talking about birth? And
Sure.
that is, you know, we're gonna be putting up these kits in the ammo boxes. I think there's gonna be room in there even for just a little container of golden seal powder. You don't have to buy a lot of golden seal.
No,
Just buy a really small amount. And if you have an infected umbilical cord, you just put that straight on the cord and it will heal it up.
yeah, and myrrh powder is good.
Myrrh, and yes, myrrh.
And in mine, my birthing kit over there, I do have myrrh powder in there, and I put
Is
it in
it
a
cheaper?
spice bottle. Yes, it is
And
cheaper.
myrrh will work the same
Yes,
as the
yes.
golden seal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would just keep a few capsules of the golden seal powder is all I used to keep in my.
Oh,
in
that's
my
a good
house.
idea. That's even
Tiny,
easier than.
tiny little bit.
Yeah,
Because you hardly need anything.
yeah, that's perfect.
Perfect.
That's a really good idea. I'll
They
be-
just
I-
open up one capsule.
Yeah.
And you just
What a good
sprinkle
idea.
it on.
Yeah,
There's a place that you can buy herbs by the ounce. So for something like this,
Yeah, you can
That
buy a
would be
small
a
amount.
good
Right.
price. Yeah.
mistletoe is another one. It hastens, and I've heard a little bit of talk about this when people are kind of a little nervous about using mistletoe. I'm just throwing it out there. Like I said, I just compiled information, and the herbs that most of the midwives shared were these. So I'm just passing that information on.
Can I make a point? I wonder if mistletoe, like I've had an inquiry recently on my YouTube channel and I haven't addressed it yet, but about when a woman is having a miscarriage, like her own miscarriage, what can she do? Like what can we have in our kits that we can help her?
Oh, very good.
I'm wondering if mistletoe might be one of those. I'm not sure.
Okay. I actually, I don't know. I just like to keep it on hand. You can't use it during pregnancy because it says, that it could cause an abortion, but it hastens labor and checks hemorrhage following childbirth, and it helps to bring the uterus down to size. And mistletoe grows in Utah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And so my husband and I, we went out and harvested a bunch. In fact, the same day that we were harvesting Mormon tea. This guy, he's a rock hound, but he grew up learning a lot about plants. And mistletoe, he said, and he was absolutely right. If you're going to go look for your own foraging, he said, you'll usually find it somewhere near wherever there are juniper trees. Look up high in the trees and see if there's mistletoe, and that's exactly where we found our mistletoe. It was right by junipers.
It's a little dangerous though. Who's gonna climb the tree?
I think it wasn't that high up.
So it's growing in the juniper or in a tree?
No, in a tree next to I
Different
can't remember which tree. It wasn't in a juniper, but it was that. He said, wherever you see junipers, look around. If you're looking for mistletoe, see
And
what your
it's the
junipers are.
piney stuff, right? That's kind of like.
There's all different kinds of mistletoe. The mistletoe that we have, it's very brittle. It's a rust color. In fact, I brought some, it's over there. And then my husband just went ahead and we've got this really good grinder and we just ground it up.
So are you looking for a specific type of mistletoe? or
I have,
just-
that's a good question. I haven't read anything that says you have
because
to
our
use
place in
one over.
California, We have so much.
So
mistletoe.
But
Right.
it's a dark green and it's
Yeah.
a clump.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
lush.
it grows on our oak trees.
Like with the
So
white
obvious.
berries on it, does it have white berries? Yeah.
White berries.
That I don't know about, but this is Utah mistletoe, so.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You know the book that you have there called Herbally Yours? Is that specifically for childbirth? Or
This one here, Every Woman's Herbal? Yeah, this is, anyone know who Abraham Gileadi is?
I do.
Yeah.
His wife
No?
is a midwife. She may be
That's her book?
This is her book, and she co-partnered with John Christopher on this
I would
book.
really like that book.
And I had
Because I
this,
bet that has a good remedy for moms. I think we really need to include in this kit something to help moms who are having miscarriages, because
that's a
that is
really,
gonna be huge with, especially with the COVID
I
shots.
thought about
They're
that
increasing.
when I was putting this together. I'm like, okay, so I just went, but yes, and I have some stuff at home about that, and there may even be in this other one. We'll see.
Your
Okay.
Angelica, your false unicorn.
False unicorn was the
Your
one that came to my
mistletoe.
mind.
That's
Yes.
another one.
And
Those
the
are three
mistletoe.
that help to
Yeah. and you
bring
take
on
those
Get false
regularly.
unicorn while you
False
can.
unicorn is
That's-
one of the ones that came to my mind.
Yes, and that's really hard to come by now. I mean, you can buy, but it's really, really expensive. And some people are just out of stock and they don't know when they're gonna have it in
This is-
again.
Here again, there's another whole aspect to this that I love the idea of us knowing about these herbs, but if we can't replace them,
That's right.
What are they
like
for?
what is in our own
Yeah.
Right.
That's
community?
There's a lot of
exactly
things
right.
This is what I really want to explore. What
Me
did you
too.
say?
There's a lot of things in our yard.
In
and
our
as-
own.
Go out into your yard,
Mhm,
start identifying your things, and
Mhm.
then say, hey, what's this for?
mhm,
What's this one here?
right. Well, the shepherd's purse is one that
Right.
may be supportive of like.
Seeing that we had
Helping with
shepherd
that.
purse in our yard every year until this year with the drought. I had none.
Did you
And I
water
looked,
it yourself or did you depend on nature to take care of these?
oh, yeah, well, the shepherds, no, yeah, I didn't grow shepherd. It was just growing randomly in our
Okay, so you
yard.
just took for granted that it was.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then this year I'm like, what's happened to
Yeah.
shepherd? I had no shepherd purse, and so I went up into the hills. I couldn't find any anywhere, so I just don't. The drought just did really weird things to the plants this year. It really did. Some did really super, like the wormwood did great, but I couldn't find shepherd's purse. But at least I had some dried and in tincture form.
I think the other thing about the dried shepherd's purse that's really nice is, I mean, it's one thing to give a tincture when you know you're dealing with a specific thing. You know you're dealing with a hemorrhage, or you know you're dealing with whatever. But if you say you have a mom and you want to do more of a nurturing way of dealing with it, I think the shepherd's purse tea with honey and cinnamon stick, warm, and then you offer that to her.
Oh, I agree.
That's a tradition that we've done, and you offer it to her and you say, here, drink this.
Mhm.
It will help your placenta come out easily and help your uterus contract.
There you go.
Very
Yeah.
nicely.
Yep.
And then so you give the suggestion, because you know she's
Yeah.
just sucking in that suggestion. Every cell
Yes,
in
because
her body wants to know what to do.
Yeah.
And she gets it. And you know what? My girlfriend did that for years and years. I've done it for years and years. We hardly had any hemorrhages
yeah,
because we proactively prevent them.
right.
Yeah.
And I love that because it just came to me as you were saying that. I don't know if any of you ever heard this expression or have experienced a dark night of the soul, but that's almost, I never thought about it until you just said that. But that's almost because the woman is walking that path by herself. It's a dark night of the soul.
Yeah. She's
And you're her.
her lifeline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Especially in a low resource setting.
Yes.
Where we're going to be helping people who don't have. I mean, this is just the very, very beginning
Right.
of what's coming.
Oh,
And when it really comes, for real,
right.
we're going to be just so busy preparing, getting ready and helping and doing all the things we can. But let's get ready now because we've got time.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
do.
absolutely. And you're right, because a lot of these women, they're so focused on the doctor, the system, the hospital is going
Yeah.
to save them, and they don't
And
have
they're
any
going to
access.
be in
to
fear
that.
base.
And
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
going to have to minister, and you're going to have to say, you can do this, it's okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Women didn't used to have any of this stuff.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Hey, thanks, you guys. I'm getting so much out of this, man. I gotta go revamp my whole thought process now. I love it. Thank you so much. I'm so appreciative. Okay, and so motherwort, I like motherwort, and it's good to take even when you're not pregnant because it really does help with stress and anxiety and all of that. But yeah, if you've got a mom is really kind of stressing out, and it's I don't know so much. It's not sedative. It's more unnerving. It just helps to calm mom down a little bit.
Mhm.
So, and it helps, and it strengthens the heart figuratively and literally.
Mm.
And that one there, you've got to be a little bit more careful with this one. It's not your typical dosage. It doesn't take a lot. 3 to 5 drops in a quarter cup of water.
And to use herbs with prudence, I think is
Oh.
real wisdom, because herbs are not to be used, like you said when you expressed the study that they did with the rabbits, and that's cruelty as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, I do too.
That herbs are to be used with prudence and wisdom.
And that's what it says in the Doctrine and Covenants.
Yes.
Exactly. And that's why Joseph was so hell bent to get as many people educated about how to use plant medicine, because he could see where things were going. And he wanted them to know how to use this. And can you imagine if all of these women had learned how to do that and they passed that on generation to generation, how much more we would know than what we know now?
We've been infiltrated
We'd
though.
be a different. culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just gonna say I'm so grateful for the women that did, like my great grandmother and
Me
my
too.
grandmother, still had that, and what had been passed on to them. So
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And then you're bringing that back through your own personal
I
study.
think they helped me. They're all alive, but
Yeah, they're on the
Yeah.
other side helping you.
And then St. John's wort is used during early labor to ease some of the spasms and discomfort of contractions without slowing down the labor process. And it's also good for afterbirth pains and postpartum depression. Let me tell you something really interesting about St. John's wort. Is a fun one. I got a big St. John's wort in my yard, and it's such a happy plant. And the time that you get the medicine, usually it's called hypericum, if I'm pronouncing it right.
That's right.
Okay, so there's in Rosemary Gladstar's book, she talked about this, and so I kept going out and checking my plant. And you just take a bud and you rub it between your thumb and your index finger, and if you get a wine-colored stain, that's the hypericum. That's when it has the most medicine. But you have a very small window. You only have about 10 to 14 days
With the St. John's wort.
to get that from the St. John's wort. Now, the other cool thing about St. John's wort, if you make it into, you've got your tea, and let's say you're taking care of a whole bunch of women, and now you're out of St. John's wort for the year, and you can't get any till
Get some
next year.
hyperic and homeopathic.
Then I made St. John's wort oil.
Oh, and the oil too.
What you do with the oil, you put it on your hands and you rub it up and down your arms 3 times a day and not only postpartum depression, but for any kind of depression.
We should make St. John's wort oil next time.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say they call it the sunshine herb because it helps with depression.
Oh, that makes sense.
And it looks like
my
sunshine,
bees
too.
love it. And I would go out there and I would talk to my bees, because we used to have hives, and I still have my bees, and I would go out and say, I know you guys really love this plant and you're getting some good stuff out of here. And I know you're really happy because, it's an antidepressant, but I need to take a little bit from it. And they were fine.
Hey, I'll have to do that with my bees. They're hovering over my roses, and I go out there and they're like practically attacking me recently.
I talked to my bees and the
guys,
hummingbirds.
I want these.
And we had bees and ladybugs and hummingbirds and dragonflies. And I would just go out there when I was getting ready to forage or harvest plants, or harvest them. I would tell them, hey, I need to take some of these. I know you're enjoying. And remember now, we have a little energy exchange going on. I brought these plants in for you to make you happy. So now I need some medicine. And you're like, cool. And we had our 3 hives at the end of my herb garden. We had 3 hives, and we had our beekeeping suits and the whole thing. But I would go out there and harvest my plants or, weed or whatever. And not once was I ever stung by a bee, because I would tell them why I was out there and what I was doing. My husband got stung twice, and he's allergic.
Oh, my.
So
we have to realize that what we're doing is we're an integral part of Mother Earth
yes,
in nature, and that we're actually interfacing with her in a really holy way.
absolutely.
And it's sacred. It's sacred.
It is. It's very, and that's what to me, it's, okay, I'm going to put it out there. To me, going out and looking at plants and learning about them and harvesting them is, to me, it's like going to the temple. I have that kind of a spiritual experience out there.
Me too.
And I get so many downloads from Heavenly Father when I'm out there working with plants. It's my passion. Can you tell?
Yes.
I was just had the thought that I wonder if St. John's wort would be good for miscarrying mothers, like we were talking about, because of that
Yes.
it would help with the
sure.
emotional
Never
aspect
mind.
of it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would say so. Absolutely.
Especially as an oil like rubbed on the abdomen.
Yes.
Really
Rub on
good.
the
That's
abdomen.
perfect. Oh my
Somebody
gosh.
do
Yeah. I love
That's
that.
inspiration for sure.
Yeah. And then the last one is yarrow, and it regulates and causes blood to clot, and it stops hemorrhaging.
Mhm.
And I think that one's probably from talking with the midwives I talked with, and this is what I assessed her. So I'm just expressing this as opinion only. I think yarrow might even be even more gentle than shepherd's purse. And here's a couple of really interesting things about yarrow. Yarrow is, you can go out, if you're getting sick, if you feel like you're getting sick, you can go out in your garden and just pick a piece of yarrow and just chew on it.
I have a question about yarrow. Is there one type of yarrow that isn't good? Or are they all good?
They're all good.
The ones that are huge and they kind of end up being like yellow and brown.
Okay, the colors.
Really tall ones.
Its botanical name is Achillea millefolium, and they come in 3 colors.
Okay.
They come in pink, they come in white, and they come in yellow.
Okay.
And I have never ever seen the pink, but I have seen the white and yellow in the hills. And I actually have both growing. I took some out of the hills and brought it and put it in my yard. The white yarrow is smaller and shorter than the yellow, has the same medicinal purposes, but I'm like about smells. And the white yarrow is so delightful. It smells so good. My body just loves it.
Yes.
So that's so. But
when you pick it, do you pick it right? Do you pick it right down to the stalk and then use the leaves? And
I use the
flowers?
leaves and the flowers, and I cut mine about 4 inches
So it can
from the
regrow.
ground. So yes, it can keep regrowing, and it will. It's a perennial. It'll keep coming up. So
we're making all these tinctures this afternoon, and they're probably close to being done. Do you want to?
Yeah. One thing I did want to share is I did bring some other herbs from my garden that are not on this list.
Okay.
Some are already in tincture that I'm willing to share. If you feel impressed, I don't want you to, okay, I'm a direct person. I don't want you to get, piggy or hoggy and like, oh, I want all this. I'm going to take everything. But whatever, but if you see something over here that I've made that you feel like I've got cramp bark and stuff, if you feel impressed that you need to put that in your tincture kit, by all means, help yourself. There's no charge. I'm offering that to you free. And then I also have,
can you show us what you mean by that? Can you show us these herbs that you're talking about?
Yeah, I have motherwort, I have mistletoe. I brought catnip is another really good mild nervine for women. And that wasn't on the list, but I brought some. So if you want to put that in one of your bottles, you can do that. That won't be a problem. Let's see, I think, and I brought yarrow if you want, and this is out of my garden.
You've gathered that yourself.
Yes.
Now, let's be really careful here because these are all your things. We're only paying for the dried ones that
you know what? I felt impressed by the spirit because I think this may be the last time with the way things are going. And Heavenly Father showed me. And I struggled. I'll be real honest. I keep them for me. And he goes, "We'll provide. You need to get these out to these women. They need it for up in Idaho." So that's so
sweetheart.
So yeah, I did. It was my negative ego got in the way, and it's like,
I asked you 3 times.
Oh, let me finish really quick and then we'll break. Okay. So I started learning about herbs about 10, 13 years ago. I can't remember it. It was after I married my husband. He's the one that gave me a lot of confidence. So then we came up here because we were looking for property. We meet with Shar, and Shar's showing us around and everything. And she finds out I know about this much about herbs. That's it. Nothing. And she goes, oh, so then she calls me. She goes, why don't you go teach a class? And I went, no. Just like that. I went, no. Because I didn't know enough I didn't feel like I knew enough to share or whatever. And then a couple of years later, we're on the phone again. She says, hey, will you come up and do a class? And I went, no. Just like that, no again. And then about 2 months ago, I felt impressed to do this, and I didn't know why. And I compiled it, put it together, and it was this one. It's called Birthing Tinctures and Procedures: What to Use When in the whole process.
Are you going to hand that out too?
Oh, I did handouts for all you guys.
Oh,
yeah,
great. Okay.
And so I sent that to. I just felt impressed. It was a Sunday night, and I felt impressed. Oh, just send that to Shar. See what she thinks. So I sent it to her, and I don't think it was an hour later, she sends me an email. Oh, come up and teach a class. and I said, no, again.
She did. I was like, okay, no problem.
So that was on Sunday. On Tuesday, I was asked to do a little class, assisted living in Layton. And I will not forget this. So I'm walking out to my car and I got all my stuff to do my little class, right? And I have a very close connection with Heavenly Father and with my ancestors and my kids. I have a son who passed away. And so I'm going out to the car and I heard this voice. The voice says, "Oh, you're going to go teach that class in Rexburg." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." This is exactly, I'm telling you the truth, this is exactly how the conversation goes. So then the voice said, "Well, we'll help you and we'll help you put this together and all that." And I said, "I don't know enough. I know there's lots of people, but I don't know more about plants and herbs than I do." "Well, they may, but you're going to go up there and you're going to teach the class." And I'm like, "Okay." And I go, "Oh, I know I can get out of this." I'm not kidding. This is what I thought right now. I know how I can get out of this. I'll tell Lynn that I'm supposed to go up to Rexburg, and he'll go, "Well, that's too far for you to drive by yourself." So when he got home from work that night, because he's retired, but he does consulting work, and he had done a class, and I said, "Hey, babe, this is what happened today when I got ready to go down to Lake." And he goes, "Oh, you're supposed to go to Rexburg and teach class." Great. Wow. And so that's how that happened. So then yesterday when I was talking with Char, this was funny. So we're standing right here and she goes, "Oh, so all those times that you said no, you felt impressed by the Spirit that you weren't supposed to go and teach class?" I said, "No, I just didn't want to come." My ego got in the way. And
Here you are.
And here I am.
Here you are at the right
So-
time, the right place.
Thank you. I would love to hear, like, you were mentioning about how grateful you were for your grandmother and stuff. And like, I wanted to get from each person, if you've had any kind of an experience with herbal medicine or a relative that came into your life that had an impact in your life, I would love for you to share before we break.
Well, why
if
don't we
that's
do
okay.
that? And why don't we turn the camera around? Why don't we start? Naomi, do you have anything?
Sure. I
Okay.
mean, that's my mom. So obviously
Okay.
there's some people in my life. My mom has used essential oils ever since I was a little kid. And I wasn't really sure about all of it, but once I left, I realized like, oh, these plants are important. Like I need this in my life. I usually use plants like less of like a medicinal medical context, but I use it more for like changing your mindset. Like how you feel about, like when I make a tea for menstrual cramps or something, it's not fix the inside of my body, it's fix the way I'm thinking about it. So I can deal with it
So I
better.
can cope well.
Yeah.
Yes. Very,
Nice.
very profound.
Yeah.
And
I
very
usually-
nuanced and
I
subtle.
like burning herbs.
Burning herbs.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
make
like
incense.
burning herbs too.
What did you say?
Well, the nuanced subtlety, which is it's this subtle nuances that herbs provide with your brain and everything. I think they actually affect the whole outcome.
Yeah, definitely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I thought you said burning herbs.
Well, burning, yes,
Oh,
burning.
you did say.
In fact, I've been learning a lot more about burning the mullein,
Okay.
and also that you can. I mean, not that you do it like all the time, but that you can actually breathe in the mullein, the mugwort, the uva ursi. There's something called wild dagwood, and there's a whole bunch of herbs that can heal the inside of your lungs. And mullein is one of the ones that's everywhere around here.
Yes.
You use it with prudence. Of course, the same as what we said. You're not like doing it all the time.
Right.
But when you need, it
Right.
can be really good for viruses and wet lung.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Jack.
I don't know. I've mostly just been learning about stuff and something with her.
So, but is there anything that has like really stuck out in your mind that she shared with you? Like, even if it pertained to her, it's like, I should pay attention, wake up and pay attention to this.
I can't think of anything in particular right now, but like, yeah, definitely just like, I don't know, like I've never in my life like had like an herbal tea. Like I think I picked some mint leaves once when I was a kid and had some tea, but like that was, and like just like working with herbs at all and being able to like, talking with them and just like getting, they got such character.
They
Every
do.
plant.
That's a good word.
Just like you, Jack.
Yeah, for sure.
You have character.
Thank
too.
you.
Awesome.
you know, also too, you guys live in nature a lot. Your
Mhm.
lifestyle puts you out there, so you have, you know, you just kind of by osmosis, kind of
Yeah.
pulling stuff in. But I'm gonna say something, I had an epiphany during this about my grandma and grandpa, okay, because I was raised with them. My grandma was doctor. She was from Utah, Salt Lake. They're both pioneer stock on my maternal side. But my grandpa was nature. And that conflict between the two created an environment for me where I thought about both sides, because she stood her ground and he stood his ground. And I'm grateful for that, because the critical thinking, maybe, she had gotten to the point where, you know, she had babies at home, but now she was having babies in the hospital, and they told her formula was the best way.
Mhm.
And though that baby got rickets, okay? So for me, when I had a baby, it was like, I'm breastfeeding, nature set it up. I'm
That's right.
17.
Hallelujah.
God set it up this way. I am breastfeeding no matter what.
Mhm.
But I did, you know, I think the conflict between the two ways of thinking helped me to, because I'm always asking questions. I can't help it.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Can I just
That's
make a
awesome.
comment that just came up? Is like, you know, breastfeeding is so important, and supporting good breastfeeding is really important. And I think, you know, just an herb that came into my mind was fennel. Having some
Oh.
fennel tea in our kit wouldn't be a bad idea, would it?
I love
For
fennel.
helping with breastfeeding, because yes, it's vital in a low resource setting. Actually, it's absolutely vital. Like in the post-disaster settings of, you know, third world countries, especially where Robin Lim has worked, the babies that do not breastfeed do not live.
Right.
Period. And most of the women that have cesareans don't live either, because they end up with infections.
Mhm.
So learning how to do a birth without a cesarean in a low resource setting, even if you have the capacity to do the cesarean,
Right.
is really important, because, and that's what we do, is we teach how to be proactive and support the natural physiological design of birth, where you're not interfering with that natural flow of hormonal cocktails that make all the hormones, make all the physiological processes work the way they're divinely
Right.
designed to work.
Right.
You know,
Okay,
the
so we
other
wanna
thing
work
too,
within
in a
that.
low resource setting, you might be dealing with malnourished mothers, pregnant mothers.
Yeah.
So the teas seem to just bring that on board.
They
and
have
put it-
so many minerals in
Oh,
them.
nettle
And
leaf.
Nettle.
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 Is
You
amazing.
drink it all through your pregnancy.
Absolutely.
That goes all over.
Absolutely.
And if you drink it in the last 6 weeks of your pregnancy, you will help with the blood clotting factor for yourself and for your baby to prevent intracranial hemorrhagic disease, which we use vitamin K for now.
Oh, wow.
And I
Okay.
feel the spirit right now. We need to know how to give moms nettle tea
Right.
at the end, so
Right.
they can handle their bleeding,
Somebody write that down.
their iron to go up, and then they can also not have that hemorrhage
Mhm.
going on.
Excellent. Yeah. Very good. How about you?
Marlene has been my best friend for 50 years. And she's done herbs since as far back as I can remember. I can't remember a time that she did not ever. So she's come to my aid many times over the years. And you were supposed to be here today. I agree with your deceased son who spoke to you, because you touched my soul. And when we break for lunch, I'm gonna go take pictures, and I'm gonna go home, and I'm gonna investigate and make improvements in my life, because I have 4 kids, 16 grandkids, lost one, and a big family.
Mhm.
And we're.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add this. I was going to say that, and there's so much I wanted to try to cover, because I feel like things are so close. Not close. We've already gone off the precipice. We're in free fall right now.
Free
We're
fall.
in free fall. And so I felt like there's so much information I need to get out and share with you guys.
Yeah.
My daughter-in-law works for the health department, and she got to do a flyover of the Wasatch Front. If we have a major earthquake, 7 point or anything higher than that, your gas lines are gonna go out, your water lines are gonna go out, and who knows how long it's gonna take. I even went and talked with our police department. I talked to our EMTs. I said, in an event like that, how long will it be before you're exhausted, like where you can't come help people? They go, in about 7 minutes. We can take about 3 calls and we're done. So guess what? We are all on our own. So with her doing Safe Haven and working with people, we are quickly, very quickly within our own communities are going to be going through, we're going to see dysentery, we're going to see cholera,
If you don't have
all
clean
of this.
water.
That's exactly right.
I was talking to my son who lives down in Pleasant Grove, okay,
Mhm.
Iowa, that area. And he's got 10 kids. I said, if things shut down, nobody goes to the bathroom and the toilet. You go
That's right.
outside, you dig a hole.
Yeah, my husband already
Everybody
built an
goes
outhouse.
outside.
He's got
You're
an
gonna fill
outhouse.
that
Yep.
toilet full of poop.
That's
It's gonna
it.
smell terrible.
Yep.
You don't want it in your
Yeah,
house.
that
Yeah.
water is huge. Once you
Yeah,
lose access to clean water,
So we're going to be, and this is what I felt impressed with, and that's why after arguing with Heavenly Father, and I call it the hierarchy because I had the whole council of women, the whole 9 yards. Seriously,
Eve and everybody else.
oh my gosh, I had the whole club. And what was impressed upon me was the reason I need to share this information with you is because you're going to be taking care of your own families, your community. You're here because you're going to be doing that for your community.
Right.
And so get the information out and do as you will with it. And I've done I can walk away saying I did my job.
it's gonna fragment. You're gonna have people that will be sensible, and then you're gonna have a vast majority that are gonna be looking to the government or somebody else or EMTs.
And we're seeing that already.
Yeah.
We're seeing that polarization is going on right now. So
Can I just make a comment?
Yes.
I know we need to get through everybody, but before we totally close down the video, we'll have it come back up again after lunch when you're actually demonstrating how to make the tinctures. But because I don't want to leave it till the end of the day, I was wondering if you'd take like maybe 15, 20 minutes and just show us your kit.
Oh, I would love to.
Would you? Okay, so
Yeah,
let's
absolutely.
finish going through everybody.
So I was kind of hoping we could do a separate video where she goes over everything on the table in the kit, and then we can be eating or whatever, and I can do that with
I
her.
can do that while you're eating because I'm on a whole different
Yeah, because we
eating
do need to
program.
keep moving.
Okay,
Right.
good.
Okay. All right, so let's just.
So, my whole family kind of went through this evolution of like just dealing with our problems more conventionally. And then my sister was diagnosed with celiac disease. And for all of us, we just kind of took our health and things into our own hands more. And it actually led to like, my dad's been a farmer and he started farming organically. And that has been like such a blessing for our family in so many ways. So there's like lots of conversations about health and sustainability and all sorts of stuff that came into our family's lives. And I when I was like 17, I had a strong impression that I was like trying to figure out where I was going to go to college and things. And no, I was actually 16 at this point, and I just got this strong impression that like, well, don't worry too much about that. Someday it's going to be a lot more important that you know things than you have a piece of paper that says you know things.
Yes, exactly right.
And so then the next year, my sister was pregnant with her first baby, and she had a midwife. I was super interested, and that led me into I'm becoming a home birth midwife.
Good for you.
And I really love herbalism, and I've been reading about it since I was like 18.
Right. Good for you. That's awesome.
Well, I was just steeped in natural medicine from the time I was born because my dad was he did acupressure. So he was a very, very, very skilled. I mean, he would have been probably a naturopathic doctor right now, but he did it all for free and all on the side. He traveled all over the world learning from different people. And we never went to doctors or dentists or anything.
Oh, wow.
And we were very, 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 very unusual family.
Mhm.
We never ate anything canned or like boxed or anything
Wow.
we didn't eat white bread, nothing like my mom cooked everything from scratch, all natural. My father insisted she wasn't raised that way, but she was raised by a mother who cooked a lot of really holistic foods. But of course, there was white flour and white sugar and all that. But no, we had homemade bread every day. You know, it was always like triticale and oats and all these different. And she was just amazing. My mom, she was a nurse who worked in the obstetrical department and taught me everything about natural childbirth. She had all 9 of us without any anesthetic. And every single other person in the entire hospital had anesthetic. Like literally, she couldn't make a sound or they'd give it to her. But she knew how to be quiet. So she had, and then she breastfed all of us too. No drugs and all breastfeeding. So, you know, I've had a really good start in my life. I think I have a very strong constitution because of my mom. And like my oral project in my co-ed grade 12 child care class was on the uterus and natural childbirth, complete with like diagrams of the uterus and everything. So I was already kind of a midwife budding then. And every time anything was wrong, it would be either some natural remedy, like we would take kelp, or we would take, you know, we would have like, sometimes we would take supplements and things, but they were just really, really plain, simple things. My dad made wine. He made his own wine from grapes, straight from grapes, and we used to press it with our feet. Like that was one of the most best experiences I ever remember.
Cool.
Is my dad making wine. I really think wine's going to be a thing that comes back into, because wine is really calming for the mother.
And I have that on this birthing procedure.
Do you? Yeah,
Absolutely.
because I know we have our like super strict, like hyper kosher rules in the church, but I think we need to like
on there.
Too strict about things like that.
I mean, how alcoholic are you going to make it?
I think just regular wine. Just regular wine is not bad for you. It's just yeah, you can actually make good wine.
That was good.
Hide their herbs in there.
Yeah. Yes.
You hide the wine in there. Years old and still is in a band, plays a bass, and she plays at retirement homes, Alzheimer's units, and all of those. And so I've gone to support Mother and her band. And every afternoon they bring a glass of wine to every elderly patient that lives there.
That's
So
because
there
it's
is some
statistically.
medicinal value.
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
And it's very good for dementia and
Research.
Alzheimer's
They're
patients.
not
A subject for,
Well, here's the thing: if you have a mother, okay, and beer is another thing, even though you know the hops. And I carry hops tincture in my kit, just so you know. Hops tincture is great for helping a mom who's anxious about her breasts producing milk. Right.
Oh yeah, that's.
And then the beer. I mean, if we were like making our own beer, I mean, I don't think anything that we buy at the store is all that great because of the nitrites and stuff. But if we made our own, if she could drink one beer, like a stout, you know, the real thick stout, and that will cure so many breastfeeding issues.
I had my
instantly.
doctor in Arkansas when I had my 3rd son. That's exactly because it hurt so bad for him to latch on. And I went to the doctor. It wasn't I didn't have enough milk. He goes, oh, half a can of beer. 15 minutes before you're ready to nurse, drink a half a can of beer.
It's the hops.
And it was, but it was also very calming, and it made the pain less
And
intense.
the tincture works the same. So if you, the hops tincture does work the same.
Well, I didn't know about it then, but yeah, you're right.
And the other thing is cannabis. I think a cannabis tincture for labor and postpartum, fantastic thing to have in your kit.
Right.
Yeah. Calm the mama, and also the CBDs in there, but don't separate them out because you don't want to take herbs. That's what they do. They separate everything out and try to act like they're smarter than God.
Yeah.
You're not smarter than God. Sorry.
Right.
Leave it all together.
Right.
You're not smarter than God.
Right. Angie.
It
all started back.
That was cute. That was good.
My father worked for the Forest Service in Jackson Hole, and he had a love of plants that he passed on to me. And he could take us on a hike and know the name and the botanical name of every wildflower, every plant, every tree.
Wow.
And so that's kind of where my love, and he also then worked in a greenhouse at Utah State. And so I remember as a child going and the smell of the wet dirt and helping him
Mhm.
to water the plants in there. So that's kind of where it all started. And then I started having children, had them all natural in the hospital because I didn't really know anything different. And then I became a nurse and was indoctrinated with drugs and vaccinations and thought I was doing such a good job. And then I started seeing these 18-month-olds come in with new autism, new CP and all that kind of stuff. So then I started studying vaccinations and then and then I just started into learning about herbs. And so I have 9 children and had them, 7 of them are out of my body and I had them all natural, but still at that point didn't know what I know now, or I would have had them at home.
Right.
And then when we moved here from California, Elk Grove.
That's where we went to high school.
I just got, the minute I put my foot on the earth here, the Lord sent me on this path that was high speed, learning energy, learning homeopathics, learning. I went to Butterfly Express and all of her classes.
Yep.
And then I was just like, Father, if I just have this desire to learn about birth, but I don't know what to do. And then all of a sudden I met someone and so it's just taken me, and in my office I have herbs hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
There was a place up in the foothills of California, this herbal place, and I went in there and they had these herbs and I'm like, I have to have that. So everybody walks in, they're just like, oh,
Yes.
So I have lots of herbs. So I, have homeopathics, herbs, essential oils, but I'm just drawn to the herbs and the plants.
Me too.
And I just.
And you live in Logan, so you're not too far.
Yes.
You and I are gonna visit.
need to get together.
I can't wait.
I know,
I'm
so
serious.
excited. And I know, I feel the spirit here so strong.
Oh, good.
And you are touching me, and I know that we're all on a path that where
We
we're
are.
supposed to be.
We are, and we're supposed to be here today,
Yeah.
and we all have a mission Heavenly Father wants us to follow through on.
Yes.
Yeah, the interesting thing for me is I've always bought the herb in the bag. I've never been in touch with the earth and the growing of the herb and identifying it. So I'm excited about that.
Awesome. That's
And I
exciting.
can't wait for the herb walk tomorrow. And
Me too.
Me too.
Ruth is gonna take us on the herb walk, right, Ruth?
Sure.
Is that?
So we're not
Still
going
good?
to Teton Valley anymore.
Okay,
No, yeah, but I mean, if there's stuff.
we can do it here.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was perfect. That would be
is there a
awesome.
river? Is there a
And there's the river, we
somewhere?
can go to the river. I went yesterday to the river, there's not a lot of plants left.
Right. We
It's
had a
just
couple
the
of
time of
frosts and we
year.
had another hard frost last
We
night.
did.
I
So,
saw that
yeah.
this morning.
Yeah, I
It's
got
definitely our time
the
of year.
sage that I picked, it's just everywhere at the river.
Mm.
So if anybody wants sage, but I mean, there is a walk that we could go on, but it would be about a 20-minute drive. I think we will go there too, because we're gonna end up out at the Far River. So there's 2 rivers.
Okay.
There's the Close River and the one that's right beside the
The
pool.
Close River and the Far River.
Yeah, we're
There
gonna go
you
to both, I think, actually. So should we finish this?
Yes,
little-
Yeah.
Maddie.
Okay.
It's interesting because as I've been thinking about it, at first I was like, I don't know where where my love of herbs has come from, but as I've been thinking about it, I've realized that it's come from so many different places throughout my life. One really notable one is I actually have a great uncle who lived in Idaho Falls, and at a very young age. So my great uncle is very intelligent and has done a lot of research on mushrooms, and just like as a food source and a health source and medicine and all of these different things. And so I remember probably when I was like 9 or 10 years old, him taking me into their backyard and showing me the mushrooms that were growing there and telling me about the different kinds and what we can use them for. And basically his belief is that mushrooms will save the world, which I totally agree with. And so
Because we can grow them without sun.
yeah,
I've got a stick in my,
They're
a stick that's been
really
implanted. It was a
amazing.
trade where one of my clients gave it to me. I haven't
That's really cool.
sprouted them yet, but they'll keep sprouting and sprouting.
and they
and
just keep
sprouting.
going and they just spread. And anyways, and so I think that was kind of my introduction in that way. And then also just my parents have always wanted to live off their own land and be self-sustaining, which actually didn't happen until last year. And so, but that's kind of kickstarted me in a lot of ways too, to see them.
Okay.
They're now doing that. And so just that, and also I think just kind of a distrust of doctors from a young age. There was several instances where my mom almost died because medical professionals didn't listen to her. And so that was really, I think, traumatic for me as a young child. And it just made me realize that I had to be responsible for my own health, because no one else is going to save me. And so, yeah, I think that's where it all came from.
Perfect, Maddie. Thanks for sharing.
I think for me, growing up, I grew up in a very medical home, and then my mom got a divorce from my dad, and I think definitely Heavenly Father really aided her on her spiritual journey, and she was the one who introduced us to the whole holistic nature. And I never really knew that this side of like the world existed, and I just fell in love with whole holistic and high energy that this all is. And I feel like from like taking like my natural supplements or taking some herbal tea, I've realized that the high energy matches my high energy spirit. And
Yeah,
I love that.
I get that.
Yeah. And I just feel like I'm just trying to be close with Heavenly Father right now, and I don't really need any low energy or anything clouding my third eye. And so I stick with like the herbs, because they open up my third eye and help me feel spirit more. And that's really important in this day and age.
Wow.
Good for you.
That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Andrea?
Hey, I brought in a friend. She's just here to learn. She's not going to put together a kit, but she couldn't make it this morning to check things out. This is Kelby, and she grew up down the road from me.
Does Kelby, do you want to say something on our thing? Because we're just going around saying, how did we get introduced to herbs, and why do we love learning about them? What influenced us in our lives?
What influence?
Welcome.
Thank you.
And while she's taking her shoes off, Andrea can.
Oh, Andrea
Yes.
hasn't done hers
And
yet.
Rachel hasn't either.
I thought you were done. Sorry. Come
This
on in and
Rachel.
have a seat. Oh, thanks. Nice to see you.
See, this is a fun group.
Yeah. I'm so glad you came. And your big sweet little baby too. Hi.
So I am still learning a lot. I don't know like anything about herbs or holistic healing, but I grew up in a very like traditional medicine doctors type of home, and I think mostly because of the tradition, like their parents did that and their parents did that, and also because of I always remember hearing like doctors and medicine were like godsends, which maybe in some instances they are, but other times they're not. And I remember, I'm really glad that you brought that Amanda story up from Hans Mill Massacre, because when I heard that story as a teenager, that really like hit me. Like, I always remember that story really specifically. And but it wasn't until I got married and I started coming to these classes and learning from my mother-in-law that I really like started opening my mind to more like what else there is out there. So I'm still learning, and I don't really know where to start, but I'm glad that I was able to come so I could learn a little bit more.
Good.
Thanks, Andrea.
Celine.
No, I don't.
She just said no.
Right, no, I'm actually going to stay off the screen for this one.
I'll hold it for you, sweetie.
No, seriously.
She washed her hair.
Right. It's not because of how I think I look. I think I look great. but the Lord has prepared me and taken me on quite a journey. Like you were able to hear my mother speak about her journey with her grandparents and how she raised us with a lot of alternative treatments. And but I think I've been given what she gave me, raising me this way. And but there's been so much more. I have 8 brothers. There was a lot of trips to the emergency rooms. And then pretty soon it was like, do we really need to go for this? And you just start taking care of it all yourself. And so it was almost an act of rebellion. We're doing this ourselves. We're doing this ourselves. And like, we don't need them. You think you need them, you don't need them. And to be able to move forward with that. And then there was my grandmother and the cancer and the journey that the Lord took me on with cannabis, with that, where I never would have considered that. I mean, like, it wouldn't even entered my mind. And yet the Lord said, no, take a look at that. And I mean, like, that was really altering for me. To take another look at things that I had put into the absolutely not category, and to have the Lord take me on these journeys. And I've treated my children's broken bones. I've, super glued their cuts back together. I've made the tinctures. I've made the salves. I've taken things to the spirit and to inspiration, and had that be where I'm going. And, whether it's a book, which I think books are fantastic, but I find myself more and more every day being like, these things don't apply anymore. And I need to get things directly from the spirit.
There you go.
I read, and I say, bring it to my mind when I need it. And that's where we go.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So thank you, Mom. Thank you, Grandma. Thank you, daughters. Thank you, grandparents and great grandparents and great grandparents, because they've all had a big influence on where I'm at right now.
Where you're at right now.
Yeah. So.
Okay, Rachel, we haven't heard from you. Do you remember any experiences that you've had with using herbal medicine, or somebody wanting you to use something, and anything that just sticks out in your mind? Okay.
Do you make tea?
What kind of teas? Do you know what's in it?
What kind of tea did you guys pick just the other day to make? Catnip.
Good. So that's why you're so chilled.
Yeah.
Catnip tea. Yeah, I want some catnip. Okay, and then your name?
My name's Kelby.
Kelby.
I guess my first introduction through herbalism was through my dad. He really likes using the earth around him, trying to, I don't know, he learned a lot from his grandpa when he was a kid, and I think he tries to use a lot of that still. And then my friend Hallie here was pretty strong in initiating that, and it got me really curious as to how I could also do it. And then I had a accident. I got kicked by a horse and ended up being some big issue, but we ended up using essential oils to help cure it, and that got me healed up almost immediately, which was really nice. So I've really grown accustomed to using them and really like them. Try to use that way more than anything else. So.
Awesome.
Nice.
Good.
Thanks for coming.
Did everybody have a chance to share? I just make sure we haven't missed anyone. I think we got everyone.
I just want to rethink the idea of filming while we're eating, because it would be so bad with background noise that.
Oh, that's fine.
I think if we want to close this off though, and keep it a separate
I
one,
wouldn't
I think that's a good idea. So why don't we have a
this
closing
part's
prayer?
gonna go pretty quick.
Okay.
So it's gonna
I think
go-
we could have a closing prayer.
Okay.
let's just, I think
So,
we could probably turn that
Mhm.
off. Probably.
Thank you for coming. We're closing the recording now.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay,